3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Who is left then? Washington State and Oregon State, right?
Yep.
They'll have to go somewhere too, unless you're going to have the Pac-2.
That's the sixth matchup of the year between the Cougars and the Beavers.
The Pac-2.
It'd be amazing. Be like, Hulu's giving them $1 billion.
If you're going to call it the Pac-2, you might as well flip that around and call it the Tupac Conference.
What a dad joke. And his hologram can
Can announce.
in every halftime show.
And the winner of the seventh matchup from Washington State, Oregon State, Tupac's hologram will announce.
The last two Pac-12 commissioners were so bad, we just might have handed them the best idea they've had in 2 years.
Absolutely.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor, 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to another edition, and make it a Monday edition of the Maggie and Perloff Show right here across all the great locals, CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM Channel 158, and that free Odyssey app, and also on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS, number to jump on in, 855-212-4227. You can always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Maggie out on vacation. So is Perloff. They'll be back next week. I'm in with you Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday of this week. And once again, we always thank you for tuning in to the Maggie and Perloff show right here, but where else on CBS Sports Radio. Big thanks to my producer extraordinaire today, Michael Samter, and also Stuart Kovacs riding shotgun as well. And we got an action-packed show for you coming up at the top of the hour. Heisman Trophy winner Ricky Williams will stop by, and then in the 5 p.m. Eastern hour, 2 p.m. Pacific, we'll be joined by legendary Mets third baseman in David Wright. I got to start the show off with the San Francisco 49ers, because when I look at the San Francisco 49ers heading into this season, sure, you have the pending contract situation with Nick Bosa. We got to see if Deebo Samuel could bounce back this year. Christian McCaffrey was healthy last year. Can that carry over heading into this season? But when you look on paper with the 49ers, you check their defense off, lot to love. You look at the offense, tremendous O-line, good receiving corps, and running back, they have more than enough in the year of 2023 to get the job done. But the biggest question still remains with the 49ers. Do they have enough in Kyle Shanahan's system where they could just find a game manager or an above-average quarterback? And we all know the guy that's going to get the first opportunity to step up and deliver was their best quarterback from a year ago in Brock Purdy. But I'm still skeptical about Brock Purdy, because even though he was tremendous in a small sample size a year ago, I want to see, once teams adjust to him and when he gets through, and if he gets through an entire season, how is he going to handle the ups and downs of an NFL quarterback? And a lot of it is situation. How many times do we sit here on CBS Sports Radio and bitch and complain 3 or 4 years after the fact, this quarterback, I still believe in him, but he wasn't drafted into the right situation? The 49ers, whoever they bring in at quarterback, usually you can't make an excuse that they don't have enough talent on the offensive or defensive side of the ball. So for Brock Purdy, he's going to be given the baton, and we'll see how far he's going to be able to run with it. But if he stumbles, if he trips, if he falls, if he gets hurt, there's going to be someone else that's going to need to step up. And what I saw over the weekend, and I can't stand preseason games. I am not a fan of the preseason. I sit there on the edge of my seat just saying, please, no one get hurt and get me to the first football Sunday of the year. But when you watch the preseason game between the Niners and the Raiders from over the weekend, Sam Darnold was a better quarterback than Trey Lance. Now, you could look at the stat sheet, because a lot of you, I'm not stupid, will just look at the stat sheet and say, all right, another preseason game in the books. We inch closer and closer to the season. And when you look at the Trey Lance stat sheet, it looks like he played well. 10 of 15, 112 yards, 1 touchdown. But that touchdown pass was a fortuitous bounce, because it should have been intercepted by the Raiders. And he should have been picked off twice in that contest, but he wasn't. So you watch Trey Lance, and I'm not telling you Trey Lance stinks. I'm not telling you Trey Lance can't play in this league, but it's now been a few years. He's entering year 3 in the NFL, and a lot of it you could say he hasn't been given the opportunity, or he hasn't taken advantage in the small opportunity he's been given. But I don't believe that the 49ers believe, and it's crazy to say this after giving up 3 first-round draft picks a few years ago, that the 49ers clearly don't believe in Trey Lance moving forward. Because when you draft a player 3rd overall, and you miss, it usually ruins your career. The saving grace here for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch is they're really damn good at their jobs. Even though they messed up the Trey Lance pick, or they have lost their sense of belief in Trey Lance, it seems as if each and every year for the last few years, we wake up and bare minimum, the 49ers are not only a playoff team, but they're playing in the NFC title game. We've seen with Lynch and Shanahan them get to the Super Bowl up against Kansas City, Jimmy Garoppolo, of all people, outplay Patrick Mahomes for 3 quarters, and then Mahomes did what Mahomes usually does. And the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. We've seen the Niners get to the NFC Championship game 2 other times, blew that 4th quarter lead to the Rams, and then just a year ago, go through quarterback after quarterback because of injuries and get blown out by the Philadelphia Eagles in South Philadelphia. So usually when you go and you make a draft pick and give up all that capital to go get your quarterback and it looks like it's failing, the coach and the GM get shown the door. But here, they avoid criticism really because of the fact that they find a way not to win a Super Bowl, but still be a winning product year in and year out. And it's kind of fascinating to see how this all unfolds because, as I said earlier, it's tough to even evaluate Trey Lance because he had that one great year at North Dakota State, then COVID hits, and when COVID hits, he played one game that year. Then he gets drafted, isn't designed to be the guy because it was Jimmy G who was going to get one more year there. Then last year is the guy, week 1 up against the Bears, plays in that monsoon, and then gets hurt. And now all of a sudden, the 49ers have no interest in Trey Lance or ever plan or intend for Trey Lance to be their starting quarterback again. It's fascinating. And the reason why I will be a little bit critical of Kyle Shanahan here is because I really do believe he was talked into drafting Trey Lance. He originally wanted Mac Jones. Now, is Mac Jones going to be a Hall of Famer? Probably not. Is Mac Jones even going to be a starting quarterback in this league a few years from now? I don't know. But Mac Jones at Alabama had an abundance of talent led by Devontae Smith, and look what he was able to do. The 49ers have an abundance of talent. We even saw in year 1 for Mac Jones when he didn't have a plethora of names, he was able to take a Patriot team that doesn't have a great roster to the playoffs. So what would have Mac Jones have done if he was drafted by the 49ers? I'll even go a step further, which it didn't seem like they were entertaining this name. I'm surprised, and it's amazing to me how many teams glossed over this guy, whether it was the Jets at 2 or if it was the 49ers at 3. Clearly, you know that Trevor Lawrence absolutely was going to be the number 1 overall pick, but why wasn't Justin Fields more considered by the 49ers? So heading into this season, I got to see the 49ers take that next step. And even though we have escaped a lot of the criticism directed towards John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan now, this has been a lot on Kyle Shanahan because I'm going to the Jersey Shore. I'll use this analogy. I'm going to the Jersey Shore on Friday, and I'm definitely going to be playing some roulette. Kyle Shanahan is the guy that walks into the roulette table at the casino, and he's the guy at the table that maybe after a few cocktails or not, he's getting very energetic, and he's telling everyone where to place their money on, where to place their chips on. And it's crazy how quickly he moves from red to 6 to 13 to 14 to black. And even though at times it's like, ooh, should I really question? Or should I really believe in Kyle Shanahan? At the end of the night, in most trips than not, he finds a way to walk you out in some way where you have some extra cash in your pocket. But that's the way that Kyle Shanahan has approached this quarterback situation. Get Jimmy G. Give Jimmy G the big contract. Then flirt with your ex and Kirk Cousins. All right, then it's Jimmy G is the guy once again. Then you go, okay, we're going to move mountains to go get Trey Lance. All right, Jimmy G's back to being the guy. All right, Trey Lance, now maybe you'll get another opportunity. Brock Purdy. He told Albert Breer after 3 games he knew Brock Purdy was the guy. When does he start to sour Kyle Shanahan on Brock Purdy now? Because this is what this guy does. And I think a lot of it is ego. And I do believe a lot of it is his belief in his system. And in an era right now, when you enter 2023, we see all these enormous contracts to the quarterback position. And we see all these quarterbacks getting money. Kyle Shanahan saying we could win without having great quarterback play. Because our roster constructed by John Lynch is good enough. And then also my coaching talent will find a way to get us back to the well. And they may get back to the well of the final 4 teams, but I will sit here and I will stand by this. Until they get a guy that they actually believe in and believe in him for a full season at the quarterback position, they're not winning a Super Bowl. As great as that roster is, as good as that team has been, where each and every year it seems like they're in the NFC title game and they get so close, if you don't believe in your quarterback and you don't have someone and just saying, oh, I trust Brock Purdy is the guy right now, I want to see come week 7, week 8, if the 49ers still actually believe in Brock Purdy. And judging by the last few years, Kyle Shanahan says he believes in quarterbacks, but does he actually believe in those quarterbacks? And by the moves that he's made and how many changes there have been, whether it's injury or just falling out of the good graces of Kyle Shanahan with those quarterbacks, more times than not, Kyle Shanahan quickly moves off a quarterback as quick as he is to anoint that quarterback being the guy. So heading into this NFL season, the 49ers quarterback position is something that I'm just so curious to see how many changes there are, and can they find their guy to go take advantage and get this team over the hump to win a Super Bowl. What say you? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. I want to go around the room here because I do have some other big questions entering this NFL season. But Samter, let me start off with you. What is your takeaway here from this crazy QB carousel that Kyle Shanahan has been operating the last few years, where the ride goes around and the kids walk away happy with the ride, but there's a lot of chaos when that merry-go-round is going round and round and round?
In my mind, in my heart, I agree with you that it's just a mess. But when you really look at what's going on there, each one of these situations has been just completely a fluid situation, right? They knew they couldn't re-sign Jimmy G. They weren't going to give him money based off of his injury history. And they were planning on Trey Lance being the guy, whether they were going to draft Lance or Mac Jones or Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. They were planning on Lance being that guy. And to no fault of his own, I get it. He's been hurt. There's been some other struggles. Brock Purdy just stepped up, and he's just great.
He took advantage.
Really good. Kind of like what Tom Brady did with the Patriots. They weren't planning on Tom Brady taking over for Drew Bledsoe. Bledsoe got hurt when Mo Lewis knocked him out, and I was at that game. Brady took over, and he was just too good to replace. And I think that's kind of what happened here, that as long as Brock Purdy is healthy, the only reason why we're having this conversation is because Brock Purdy hurt his elbow in that NFC Championship game. If he was healthy, whether they win or lose that game, and he is pretty decent, he's the number one day one starter no matter what.
And he's going to be now because he's healthy.
Right. And so that's the only reason why this conversation even started about Trey Lance coming into the season, was because, like, well, what do we do if Brock Purdy's not healthy? What if, if it takes a little time and he misses a couple of weeks? This is Brock Purdy's team until he loses it. This is Brock Purdy's team. So I think all the stuff with Trey Lance is just noise at this point until Brock Purdy either gets hurt again or falls flat on his face and proves that he really was just a flash in the pan.
To me, Stu, here's what the crazy part is. It's not that they believe in someone else. It's how quickly they lost their belief in Trey Lance. And we haven't really seen much of Trey Lance. We haven't seen him play football really ever since that great season that he had in North Dakota State. That, as I was saying earlier, the season was knocked out because of COVID. In the last 2 years, he's barely played with the Niners. And that's the part to me, Stu, that's inconceivable. Just how quickly, with how adamant you were to trading up and getting all those picks and eventually selecting Trey Lance, how quickly you're able to say, yeah, he's not the answer.
Yeah, and it's just like a missed opportunity, right? Because you had those draft assets that you used on Trey Lance that could have been added to this already great team, an already great defense, a team with already a bunch of great skill position players, playmakers. So to kind of, I guess, waste that pick on Lance now, it's such a missed opportunity, because if you used those picks wisely and had a good quarterback, we'd be probably talking multiple Super Bowls. And right now we're talking none, and I would predict none the rest of the way if they don't find a quarterback.
Yeah, you got a 2 to 3 more yearish window with this group before guys start getting old or guys start becoming too expensive, and then you got to cut and trim other areas of this team. If they don't find a way to get this Super Bowl in really the next 2 seasons, I would say, and I don't think they will, then they're not going to win with this core, and it's going to be a missed opportunity. Other big questions entering this NFL season that I'm just curious what the answers are going to be. How will Aaron Rodgers fare in New York after year one? Can Tua Tagovailoa stay healthy? Will Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson bounce back? And what is Jordan Love actually going to be? Set aside the 49ers, gentlemen, behind the glass, because we've just been talking about this with the stability at the quarterback position, or the instability, and will they finally get stability this year? Out of those, what's the one that's most intriguing? Is it Rodgers and how he fares in New York? Can Tua, with a great roster in Miami, can he stay healthy? Will Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson bounce back? And what is Jordan Love as a quarterback? Out of those handful of questions, what stands out to you the most?
I would say the Broncos, because you not only have Russell Wilson coming off of that awful year, you also pay the money, bring in the high-profile head coach and Sean Payton. You're in such a tough division to where they could be a team that wins 10 or 11 games, or they could be a team that falls flat and, goes 5, 6, 7 wins and misses the playoffs because they play in a division with the Chiefs and Chargers. So for me, it's the Broncos.
Mike? Samter?
I'm thinking because I think Stu.
Silence is never good on the radio, my friend. I thought you were thrown off that I called you Mike on the air because everyone just refers to you as
Yeah,
Saint.
who the hell's Mike?
I'll give you some Jeopardy music if you want.
No, so I was trying to be a gentleman and give Stu the first go around, and he actually took my answer.
Okay, so you believe it's a Broncos. It's okay to have the same answer.
Yes, I believe
it's not a radio show where you just have contrived opinions and just disagree with one another. I'm actually most intrigued by Jordan Love because that's another guy. He's been out of sight, but he's been talked about a lot. Everyone discusses the Rodgers component of this. Now it's what is Jordan Love going to be because we really haven't seen much out of him in the last 2 years outside of him just being on the team and having to deal with Aaron Rodgers. So what's a big question that you're wanting to see what the answer is going to be at the end of the year in the NFL entering the season? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. We'll take a timeout on Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. I'm Zach Gelb filling in. When we come on back, the latest headache in the James Harden saga. We'll get to that when we return.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
What's happening on this Monday? Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio with Zach Gelb filling in. Could always hit us up, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227, and watch us on YouTube. And we say hello to the Weedos and the Purple Drinkers. I always find my place in that group chat to be interesting, and I'm okay with it. 50% of the people like me, 50% of the people hate me. As long as you keep on listening, I don't care if you love me. And I don't care if you hate me. Anyway, before we get to this James Harden stuff, as James Harden is starting to hate Daryl Morey, we got some breaking news here from Adam Schefter, as all the NFL world, they refer to him as Shefty. Cowboys and All-Pro guard and team captain Zach Martin have reached an agreement on a reworked deal per sources. The new deal will pay him north of $18 million in each of the next 2 years. Martin was scheduled to be at $13.5 million this year and $14 million next year. So it's an additional $8.5+ million. Both years also have been fully guaranteed per a source. So that's a good thing if you're a Cowboy fan with an offensive line that is not as stable and not as well respected as it once was. To make sure that Zach Martin will be there for the next 2 years and be happy is enormous, because you want to talk about a team that shouldn't have an excuse entering this season. It is definitely the Dallas Cowboys. Their defense the last 2 years have played championship caliber defensive football. And on the offensive side of the ball, the quarterback the last 2 postseasons up against the 49ers has failed them in a big spot. So I don't want any distractions. I don't want anything that will disrupt what the Cowboys, the drama Dallas choking Cowboys, are trying to accomplish. But for the Cowboys this year, I know that defense led by Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Gilmore is going to be really damn good. Offensively, now getting Michael Gallup back, you bring in Brandon Cooks, the next step for CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard with a bigger role. We'll see if Zeke comes back, if they end up walking him back into the facility. How about Deuce Vaughn, who's a friend of Andrew Perloff? How awesome was he over the weekend? Samter, I know you would appreciate this, being a shorter fella. But Deuce Vaughn is 5'5". You got to love watching Deuce Vaughn. I was mesmerized seeing him on the football field, because sometimes in the NFL, you see someone that isn't as big as everybody else, but you're like, oh, he's an NFL player. He's really big. There's a lot of people watching Deuce Vaughn that go, I could relate to that guy. And then you see him run and you go, yeah, he's really not relatable because of how quick he moves. But that was some shifty stuff over the weekend, and he looked as if he was in a video game. It was awesome to see.
I mean, he's breaking ankles left and right. It's like a little Barry Sanders, little Dante Hall action right there. Like, nobody could touch him. And, like, it just makes me always think, every time you hear this guy's, he's great in college, he's super skilled, he's just too small. How many times has that just been proven wrong? Where a guy came in, he was small, and he just was just great. When you're great, you're great. And your size could limit you a little bit, but greatness is greatness.
Well, why that happens, obviously, is because we live in a world where the NFL draft happens, and you need to have the prototypical body, and you need to look like the ideal person for the position. Where for quarterbacks, who complained about Joe Burrow in his last year at LSU, and it's like, oh, his hands are too small. Same thing was said about Kenny Pickett. And then You get reports that defensive linemen who all they did was make tackles in college, their arms are too short. And for a running back, when he's standing at 5'5", it's like, okay, can his body get through the wear and tear of an NFL season? But the lifespan for an NFL running back is so short as it is. I'm okay to roll the dice and gamble here on someone like Deuce Vaughn. And I'm rooting for this guy to be that second best running back for the Dallas Cowboys for this upcoming season. So good news on the Cowboy front in terms of Zach Martin. We'll see what happens around the league with Chris Jones, with the Chiefs. You have Nick Bosa with the 49ers, Jonathan Taylor with the Colts, who now I guess is coming back, but he's still not going to be an active participant because he's still dealing with the injury. And I'm assuming that situation is nowhere close to getting resolved, and he still wants to get traded. And then also Josh Jacobs clearly at the forefront as well, as we're going to wait and see, does he sign the franchise tag, or does he do the Saquon Barkley thing where you get an extra $900,000, basically $1 million in incentives? But here's what I wasn't expecting to wake up to today. It is James Harden complaining about Daryl Morey. Now, full disclosure, I worked in Philadelphia for years. I have a pretty good understanding of the Sixers organization. When the Sixers hired Daryl Morey, I was against the hire. I think Daryl Morey is is actually the most overrated executive that there is, not only in the NBA, but in sports. I'm not a fan of Daryl Morey. And my disdain for Daryl Morey is when he celebrated losing when he was with the Rockets. We all remember that dopey tweet when they lost once again to the Warriors, and he's like, yeah, we didn't get the job done, but we won this amount of games up against them, and the rest of the league doesn't even come close to what we were able to do. I thought that was celebrating losing. I thought that was justifying your losing, and that's a loser mentality. And to succeed in sports, you can't have a loser mentality. So I am not a fan of Daryl Morey, but I will say he's right in this regard. And for me to give Daryl Morey a compliment, and for me to be on the side of Daryl Morey, it takes a lot. But James Harden, what he pulled, I guess this was over the weekend when he was in China, and he's talking at a basketball camp or some event, and this is what James Harden had to say about Daryl Morey, who, let me remind you, they have a long-standing relationship going back to Houston, and when most people were saying Daryl Morey should not pursue James Harden to Philadelphia, he found a way to get James Harden out of Brooklyn to Philadelphia, and now their relationship is in shambles. Here's James Harden.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I would never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I would never be a part of an organization that he's a part of again.
So listen to that. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I'll never be part of an organization that he's running again. James Harden is such a petulant fraud. It is ridiculous. It's the same playbook over and over again with this guy. He does not win. He has a great regular season. He enjoys himself. He goes to way too many strip clubs, way too many buffets, then gets tired with the organization that he's in, and then requests a trade. But for him to stab his buddy, who's been nothing but kind to him, and Daryl Morey in the back, is just flat out ridiculous. James Harden, the Sixers don't owe you anything. You had an opportunity to opt out of your $35+ million contract for this year. You opted into the contract because you knew no other team was going to pay you. So now all of a sudden, when you knew no other team was going to pay you that money, you opt in and you want to trade. And now you're annoyed and you're crying because Daryl Morey's not going to trade you for basically nothing. If you wanted out, you could have got out. You could have tested free agency this summer, and let's see what you would have got. But no team is paying you $35 million, and right now, no one wants to trade for you. So I don't want to hear that James Harden is frustrated, and James Harden is upset, and James Harden feels like he's the victim here. How many teams now has James Harden screwed over? It is ridiculous. And at this stage of his career, the juice isn't worth the squeeze anymore. And James Harden's going to be remembered as a great regular season player, but in the postseason went MIA too many times, and he's also going to be remembered as a royal pain in the ass. Because too many times does this guy just quickly avoid the criticism or avoid pointing the blame and taking accountability. And all this guy does is when there's tough times or he sees something not going the way that he wants it, he finds himself out. finds a way to get himself out. I'll give him credit. Like, look in Houston. Right, I like to call it the fat suit. And then all of a sudden he gets to Brooklyn and he's in shape. Then he doesn't want to be in Brooklyn anymore. And he finds himself a way to Philadelphia. It's amazing how many teams play this game with James Harden where they go, oh, I now all of a sudden want a piece of James Harden. Why? The guy is lazy. The guy does not put basketball first. And the guy doesn't win a championship. And he's only getting older. Why should you be a sucker? And why should you believe in him again? And look at Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey was a loyal friend, and it blew up in his face because he believed in James Harden so much. And now you have this guy at an event in China saying, Daryl Morey's a liar, and I'll never play for Daryl Morey again. I hope Daryl Morey doesn't trade James Harden. I hope he doesn't, because I want to see the bleep show that happens here. Because say what you want about James Harden, say what you want about Daryl Morey. Those are two guys that don't budge. And if Daryl Morey, and he's even said this, does not get a deal that is in the best interest of the Sixers, he's not going to deal James Harden. And is James Harden, it wouldn't shock me if he's a malcontent. It wouldn't shock me if he doesn't play. But if no one's going to trade for you, is James Harden with the year left on his contract going to sit out the entire season? As the kids would say, I'll call cap on that one. But this is just utterly ridiculous. And it takes a lot for me to believe in Daryl Morey and for me to trust in Daryl Morey, but it's not even close here. I will take Daryl Morey right now and be on the side of Daryl Morey than I will be with James Harden. You can check out the poll question today at Zach Gelb, at CBS Sports Radio. Whose side are you on? Daryl Morey or James Harden? Super duper early returns, 74.6% of the listening audience say Daryl Morey. Samter, how about you? Which side are you on here between James Harden and Daryl Morey? It's like picking, what's the better disease here? Is it Daryl Morey or is it James Harden? Which one would you rather have?
I want to be on the side of James Harden because I covered him when I was there at ASU when he was a Sun Devil.
Okay, so you're a fan of James Harden.
I was a fan of James Harden.
Wow.
Everything you said about him is 100% true. He is lazy, he shrinks in the biggest moments, and he is selfish. And every opportunity that he gets, when the going gets tough, James Harden gets going. And that, to me, is inexcusable for a guy getting paid this kind of money and to have this kind of talent and to have this kind of expectation and to just continually stop after stop after stop, place after place after place, pull the same junk.
Yeah.
I'm done with him.
And also, I used to be a fan of James Harden as well. In my closet, in my apartment, I have a Fear the Beard t-shirt in support of James Harden. I also have a Kyrie Irving Uncle Drew t-shirt.
I used to love Kyrie.
Now I use both those shirts to clean up the bathroom and to clean up the floors as well. That's the only use they get these days, those two shirts, which are probably thanking me for not having to carry around all the weight that I possess just walking around those t-shirts. Those t-shirts are like singing, praise whatever God you believe in. That's what those shirts are saying right now. Stu, give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with you guys. I mean, Harden, to me, a few years ago, I was like, oh, this guy's great. He's one of the greatest scorers I've ever seen on that list of guys that could just dominate the game and score 30, 35, 40 points a game. But the last couple of years, I haven't understood wanting to be out of Houston. That didn't bother me as much as it bothered some other people. But the Nets and then now the Sixers, it's just too much, this guy already.
And it's never his fault. This has been a guy that's been in the NBA since 2009. Probably his three best postseason moments is the game one this year in the second round of the playoffs. Probably game four as well in the second round of the playoffs. And then a few years ago, remember when CP3 got traded to OKC and they were going up against, it was Harden and Westbrook up against CP3 in that playoff series. That series should have never got to a seventh game. And it wasn't that James Harden took over the game in the fourth quarter with his great offensive play. He made a nice block at the end of the game. For a guy that's been in the moment and it's been in the spotlight that many times, for those to be the three best postseason moments, it's embarrassing. And the guy just can't go through the entirety of a season because sometimes athletes can treat their body like crap and they could still outperform it. But eventually it catches up to you. And when you're constantly going to strip clubs and buffets, you're going to be in and out of shape. And you just saw it in this series up against the Celtics. Early on, James Harden was great. And then as the series got longer and you got to game 6 and 7, James Harden was a no-show in the series. So I want to see how this plays out. I think Harden's going to be there the first game of the season. Will he be playing? That I don't know. But this is only going to get uglier because no one knows how to orchestrate a departure more than James Harden. And he is willing to play the playbook of just being a malcontent. And this is only the beginning, but he comes out swinging. This is not, oh, let me lob you a nice pitch over the middle and then I'll give you my best stuff. Right out of the gate, he's going after a guy that he had a great relationship with in Daryl Morey and says Daryl Morey is a liar and he'll never play for Daryl Morey again. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Zach Gelb for Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. When we come on back, you saw a little bit of Russell Wilson. You saw a little bit of Deshaun Watson over the weekend. As we get set for both those players in year 2 in their new home, who do you believe in more? We'll discuss. But first up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, someone I like to call my radio godmother, the great Erica Herskowitz.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
All right, Godson, this report sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you can save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. Well, first we take you to the NFL and the reports that just came out. The Cowboys reportedly working out a new deal with All-Pro guard Zach Martin. So that ends his holdout. Under the terms of the new deal, Martin will get more than $18 million a season for the next 2 seasons. So the Ravens activated leading rusher J.K. Dobbins off the PUP list. Dobbins didn't practice in any of the offseason spring workouts, including mandatories, and missed the first 14 practices of this training camp, angry about the $1.4 million he's going to get this season. Meanwhile, good news on Saints rookie running back Kendre Miller. He's not expected to miss extensive time after leaving Sunday's preseason game with that knee injury. The Saints hoping to have him back by the start of the regular season. And from baseball, the Rays released a statement saying the team and Wander Franco have mutually agreed that the shortstop will go on restricted list and take a leave from the club's upcoming road trip. I'm Erica Herskowitz.
Jim Rome here. Coming up Tuesday in the Jungle, Packers tackle David Bakhtiari and Saints tight end Juwan Johnson. See you at 12 noon Eastern and 9 Pacific.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. Zach Gelb in for both Maggie and Perloff. It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Maggie and Pearl using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when I might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts. All your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. By the way, I feel like I'm at the Cheesecake Factory with the way that you guys do the reads here at CBS Sports Radio. This large menu's in front of me with a binder with all these laminated pieces of paper. Have you ever been to the Cheesecake Factory, Samter? And they give you the most thorough menu that anyone's ever seen?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Cheesecake Factory is 455 pages long, and it includes anything from Chinese food to pizza
this is pretty
to
close.
Cheesecake.
With all the advertisements
like
you guys have.
4 pages in it.
No, there's more than 4 pages in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then a blank page, 8. And then a bunch of other pieces of paper as well here. So this is a large binder right here on CBS Sports Radio, but it's organized. And that's why I appreciate it, because my producer, Hot Take Hickey, would just throw me a bunch of papers and not even tell me when to do the read. So I appreciate working with some of the best here on CBS Sports Radio.
Listen, I take no credit. This is all Stu. Stu is the master behind the master.
Yeah, if I'm being objective here from afar, Stu is probably the more organized one between the two of you.
Smarter, better looking, talented, all of the above.
Yeah, wow, you're really just trashing yourself today. You all right, Sam?
I'm not trashing myself. I'm just pumping up Stu. Stu is a master.
Gotcha.
Although Liverpool sucks.
Yeah, they do.
You know what this is, Stu? Can I translate here for you?
What's that?
This is with you being out for a week. Samter's like, thank God that Stu Kovacs is back.
Never go away again.
That sometimes happens. Like, doing my show Monday through Friday on CBS Sports Radio. I'll be a company guy here. Many of the same CBS Sports Radio affiliates while pumping up my show. Sirius XM Channel 158 and that free Odyssey app, of course, which always works perfectly. There's times where Hickey has more vacation than anybody. It's crazy. How many days this guy has off? I feel like he has more days off than me. But then Hickey will be out for a week. And while he's there, I'll be like, oh, my goodness gracious, what are they giving me to work with on a national radio show? And then Hickey will leave, and I'll get the cast of characters that will fill in. And I go, get me Hickey back. I need Hot Take Hickey back. So there's a lot of times in radio where I don't want to say you can't stand the people you work with, but you don't appreciate the people you work with until they leave you for a little bit and they go away from the den for a little bit, and then you're begging them to come on back and never take vacation again.
I will be honest. I can't stand Stu. Even though I know I can't live without him, I still can't stand him. So it's kind of a catch-22. Do I deal with my job being harder or like my happiness being lower? So either way, I'm not in a good mood.
But you don't really like a lot of people around here. You tolerate people.
Yeah, you're one of like 3 people around here who I actually like.
I tend to do that. Yeah. I'll tell you, I kid you not, when Taz worked here, everyone said, oh, Taz doesn't like anyone here. And then Taz was requesting me to fill in for Moose when he was out, because Taz was like, I like Gelb. I'm a fan of Gelb. And everyone you walk around there be like, man, Taz just doesn't like any of us. He's got to not have conversations with people and treat people like human beings. And then they usually find a way to like you and find a way to crack like some joke or just gas them up. That's all I'm going to say on that. Yeah, but you are right. Well, also, I fattened Samter up at the Super Bowl 2 years ago when we got that special at that steakhouse, which was delicious.
So good.
We were like James Harden that night.
Tomahawk steak with some cream spinach on the side. Yes, please.
Minus the strip club. Just as Stu was about to say, you guys went to a strip club and didn't invite me? That was when single Stu was a thing. No, that was no strip club. We just had a bunch of steaks. We did it was kind of like for people that were dating, I guess. It was like a special for couples. And Samter and I just walked in after 2 shows and said, load us up on that steak and all those sides and that fattening dessert out in L.A. for the Super Bowl. Anyway, everyone's reacting to the preseason nonsense from over the weekend. As I've said before, I can't stand preseason football because I just get worried that the team I root for, the players that I like, are just going to get injured, and I just want to fast forward to the start of the season. But you got to see a little bit of Deshaun Watson with the Browns. You got to see a little bit of Russell Wilson with the Broncos. And both of those players are under an enormous amount of pressure this year, I think Russell Wilson more so than Deshaun Watson, because they already had the coaching change in Denver, and you bring in a legendary coach in Sean Payton. For the Cleveland Browns, don't get me wrong, you still gave Deshaun Watson, when no one else would have, a fully guaranteed contract. You still traded a lot of picks to go get him. But if the Browns don't go to where the Browns think they could go this year, it's inevitable. It's going to be inevitable that they would just get rid of Kevin Stefanski, their head football coach. So I do believe that Russell Wilson is under more pressure this year because they've already made that last resort move. And if Russell Wilson can't get back into, I'm not even saying a great quarterback spot, but just being competent, not being the joke of the league that everyone is enjoying making fun of Russell Wilson, then, man, we're going to start to have conversations. I know, was it Brandon Stokely, who I believe said it on this show, that don't be surprised if he doesn't play well this year, then they look to start to move on from Russell Wilson. Now, you got to see how much dead cap you're going to be willing to eat, what the numbers are, and all that jazz. But I do believe that heading into this year, Russell Wilson is playing to continue to make a Hall of Fame case and not play himself out of the Hall of Fame, where if he does not perform well this year, you thought people soured on Russell Wilson last year, it's going to be even worse this year. For Deshaun Watson, he barely played last year. Now, it's all his own fault because of the suspension, but he's only eligible for the final 6 games of the year. I'm still wondering how much rust there is to knock off for Deshaun Watson. So, gentlemen, I ask you this, Samter and Stu. When we look at the confidence heading into this year for both these guys, Russell Wilson now with Sean Payton, Deshaun Watson, if he's healthy, now going to play an entire season with the Cleveland Browns. Who do we believe in more? I'll give you my answer first. My answer, I think, may surprise you because I do believe most people will say Russell Wilson because they got Sean Payton. I'm actually more believing in Deshaun Watson. I think the roster is better in Cleveland. I don't think the coaching is better, but I think the roster is better. And also, I know that he's really not been in the NFL or in front of the TV sets on the field for the last 2 years. Deshaun Watson was on his way to being a top 5 quarterback in the league. Now, Russell Wilson also looked like a top 5 quarterback at a lot of times, or a top 7 quarterback. But Russell Wilson is getting up there a little bit in age. And not everyone plays until they're 40. Not everyone plays at an elite level in their mid-40s. And for Russell Wilson now, north of 30, is this a guy that's just starting to decline right in front of our eyes? And that's a big reason why Pete Carroll was okay with trading him and getting him off the Seattle Seahawks and rolling the dice with Geno Smith. So who do you guys believe in more? Is it Watson or is it Wilson heading into this year?
Yeah, there's no chance I'm ever going to say anything positive about Deshaun Watson, so clearly it's Russell Wilson.
But we see guys do horrible things off the field, and then they get on the football field, and they turn out to still be great players, and fans end up praising that player.
And listen, Watson, like you said, he was on a trajectory toward being great.
Yeah.
He was actually at that level that last season before he was done. He was great, 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, 70% completion. He was balling, but they won 4 games. He came in last year. He was incredibly underwhelming. I understand that he's been away from the league. When you're out of the game for that long, the NFL is not a sport that you can just like take time off and come back. This isn't the NBA, like Michael Jordan taking 2 years off and then coming back to three-peat. The NFL, when you take time off, the way your body handles that time away.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw a guy who took time away, came back, and was great? It doesn't happen.
Ricky Williams going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. He had that 1,000-yard rushing season when he did come back.
I mean, I guess there's always exceptions to the rule, but 2 years away is different than 1 year away. 2.5 years away, or a year and a half.
Mm-hmm. But usually that happens when a guy's like in their 30s. You know.
Yeah, we started with Le'Veon Bell. Came back. He was a shell of himself.
Running back, though, different.
Sure, but quarterback, I'm sure it's probably even more difficult to come back because there's so much more involved than just your physical abilities. There's so much that goes into it.
So you're going Russ. I'm going Deshaun Watson. Stu, you'll be the tiebreaker here.
I'm going Deshaun. He has more to give, more talent around him, and I think the division is a little easier. The schedule's a little easier for Browns and Watson, so I'd go with that.
Yeah, and I look at the talent there for what the Browns have compared to the Broncos. The Broncos have a great secondary. On the offensive side of the ball, I don't love the Broncos' pieces. Running back, they're not better than Cleveland. The wide receiver group as a whole, they're not better than Cleveland. And the Browns have one of the best offensive lines in football. Like, you take a look at the Broncos, defensively, they're great. But questions at the quarterback, running back coming off an injury, Jerry Jeudy's your number 1 wide receiver. I don't love that. And an offensive line that had a lot of injuries last year. Take a break. Come on back. Ricky Williams will join us on the other side. Zach Gelb for Maggie and Perloff right here, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
I'm thinking about this year, maybe I just try to be kind of positive. It's going to be really hard.
About what?
About the Bills. I didn't need a spit take. I mean,
You can't be positive. You are so hardwired to be negative about your teams.
Listen, my whole life, I've been negative about the team, and it hasn't worked. Maybe it's like a Costanza, go opposite here, and maybe something good will happen. Maybe I'm just they're going to pull this out. They're going to do it. They're going to win, and maybe something will change.
I don't think you have it in you.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
All righty, hour number 2 of our radio program. Zach Gelb in for Maggie Gray and Andrew Perloff on this Monday, off and running. Should be joined momentarily by Ricky Williams. Looking forward to that conversation. And David Wright will join us in the 5 p.m. Eastern Time hour today. So I'm going to fess up here on something. And I actually did my fantasy football draft last night. Now, I do think that's rather early, but you know how it is when you're in a league with your buddies and you've been in this league forever, there's only so many dates that work for everybody. So last night, Sunday night, it was the date that worked for everybody. So we ended up doing our fantasy football draft. Now, I had the 6th overall pick. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, Zach, I don't care about your fantasy football team. Stop talking about your fantasy football team. But I'm always curious how the first few picks are going to go. So Justin Jefferson did go 1 in our draft. Christian McCaffrey 2. Jamar Chase 3. And Travis Kelce 4. Now, I had the 6th pick, so I was hoping that Austin Eckler was going to be available at 6 because I actually think he's going to be the best fantasy football player this year. Eckler goes 5, and then with the 6th overall pick, I was surprised by the pick that I made. I actually ended up going with Bijan Robinson. And that was the first moment of the draft where everyone was like, whoa, didn't see that one coming. Now, I could have gone Tyreek Hill there. Saquon Barkley was on the board. We are a 2-quarterback league, so some people may maybe say take a quarterback. Cooper Kupp, Yahoo was basically begging me to go draft Cooper Kupp, but I didn't want to do that because I don't believe in the Rams this year. And 2 reasons why I took Bijan Robinson. He's going to be, in year 1, probably the guy that I would pick right now to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. But also, he's going to be used more than just a running back. He's going to be used a lot out of the backfield, catching the ball as well, and we are in a PPR league. But with Bijan Robinson, I did not expect, to pick him because I usually don't like picking rookies, but I do believe he could be a player that takes the league by storm this year. And there's always a player in the draft each and every year, especially on the offense side of the ball. We've seen it. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, in recent memory, that takes the league by storm. And not only do I like Bijan Robinson heading into this season, you go to that NFC South, Derek Carr now looks jacked, and he put on a lot of muscle. Stu, that has to annoy you, right? Derek Carr just looks like he's $1 million right now, leaves the Raiders, and now looks as if he's the best shape in his life.
Yeah, he looks like he's in good shape, and he should do well in that dome. So we'll see what happens.
But you go around that NFC South, there's not a team that I love. Like, I look at that division, Derek Carr always has that stench around him where he'll start driving, the car looks like it's great, and then he'll just break down when you're on the highway doing like 65 and you're about 30 minutes away from your destination. Derek Carr never gets you from point A to point B successfully. The Panthers with Bryce Young, I think Bryce Young's going to be a really good quarterback. They have a really good defense in Carolina. That offensive line is good, and it's stable for the first time in a while. They don't got much around in terms of skill position players, Bryce Young. So I can't really go all in on the Panthers. The Bucs, I can't go all in on Baker Mayfield. So I'm looking around that division. If I'm not going to pick the Saints, my pick's going to be the Falcons to win that NFC South. And you don't have to be this fantastic team this year to go win that division. Last year, that division was garbage. Just straight garbage. And even with the great Tom Brady, they had to fight their way, scratch their claw their way to the end of that season to just get an 8-9 record and get the home playoff game and then get blown out by the Dallas Cowboys. So that division is not good. And the Falcons are one of those teams where I don't know what Desmond Ridder's going to be. I don't. But they're improved defensively. You got Kyle Pitts at the tight end spot. You got Drake London. You got Bijan Robinson. You got Tyler Algier. There's enough pieces there where that team could go win 8 or 9 games, and they'll be your NFC South division champs. So that's what I ended up doing in my fantasy draft last night, going earlier than expected with Bijan Robinson. Is there a team right now in the NFL, guys, that you're not, like a lot of people nationally aren't high on? Not many people are going to get on the radio and go, I believe in the Falcons. But you're willing to maybe throw a few shekels on them. Like I would throw a few shekels right now, and I will when I go to AC this weekend. Or I could actually probably just do it from my phone now because gambling's legal pretty much everywhere you go. I will throw some money down on the Atlanta Falcons to win the NFC South. Who's the team that you're not in love with? Or, yeah, you don't, that a lot of people aren't in love with, but you're like, okay, I like them. I could see them being okay this year.
There's 2, actually, for me. One is the Chicago Bears.
Wow. To make the playoffs?
That division is a mess right now. Any one of those 4 teams, I could see winning that division.
I can't see the Bears winning that division.
If Justin Fields takes the next step forward, they finally put real talent around him.
Which they have in DJ Moore.
With DJ Moore and Mooney, and they have a running game, and they've built a team around him. And if he's as good as his potential shows that he could be, I don't see a reason why they can't win that division. I love the Lions, but I'm never going to bet on the Lions. The Packers, you just don't know. And again, I'm also never going to bet on Kirk Cousins. So I don't think the Bears are great, but that division is bad enough. The other team also that I just think people are sleeping on are the Tennessee Titans. Right? They get Harold Landry back, who was injured last year, their best pass rusher.
And they were 7-3 before they crapped the bed down the stretch with all the
Derrick
injuries.
Henry is healthy. Ryan Tannehill's not the answer to anything, but he's also not terrible. There's enough talent on that team, again, in a bad division. And I know the Jaguars are, looking up and up, but
the
Titans were the 1 seed 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And all they've done is just get healthier from what they were 2 years ago. And they've added some more wide receiver weapons that they didn't have in the past. I think the Titans, again, they're not going to be great. Maybe they win 8-9 games, but they can make a push for the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the thing. If they only win 8-9 games in the AFC, that's probably not enough to get you in. And that's
in that
also,
division, they might. Because the Jaguars, I think, will probably win 10-11, but I could see the Jaguars kind of not living up to it.
I think the Jaguars are closer to 11-12. And I know we talk about stench, right, with Derek Carr. The Jaguars also one of those teams, whenever you start to believe in them, then they go on this terrible run. But you look at Doug Peterson, Super Bowl winning coach. You look at Trevor Lawrence. He was anointed that guy until, he got paired up with Urban Meyer and then has quickly reclaimed his spot in the NFL and what his career was supposed to project to be. Defensively, they got some pieces there. They played well at the end of the year. And offensively, now you bring in Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk bumps down to a number 2 wide receiver. Evan Ingram has found out and carved out a role there. Travis Etienne, now healthy, had a really good year last year. I'm not saying you're wrong in that Tennessee will be better than what people expect, because I think a lot of people think they're going to be a 6 or 7 win team, and I don't think that's going to be the case. But I just like the Jacksonville Jaguars that much more. And to follow up on one thing that you said, maybe this is another answer here. The Minnesota Vikings are another team that I like a lot more than what people are saying. Everyone's saying they're going to regress. Yeah, they're going to regress. They're not going to. Here's a hot take for you. They're not going to be a 13-win team like they were last year. But when they regress, are they going to regress to 8 or 7 wins? Bare minimum, this team's going to win 9 or 10 games in a division that's a question mark. I don't want to call it a crappy division, but it's a division that's a question mark. And then also you have an NFC that is not top heavy. You got 9 or 10 wins in the NFC this year. You may not win the division, but you're going to be a wild card team. And even without Dalvin Cook, you have Addison there. You got Jefferson. I like Alexander Madison too. You got KJ Osborne. Defensively, can they just be average? They've been dreadful the last few years. And I know everyone can't stand Kirk Cousins, but he's a good quarterback. So that Vikings team, until they lose the division, I think they're going to win the division this year, because you said it. Everyone loves the Lions this year. I know you had a negative comment about the Lions, but everyone loves the Lions this year. And when everyone loves one team, that always just makes me say, let's pause a little bit. Like last year, with good reason, everyone believed in the Buffalo Bills. The Bills got embarrassed in the second round of the playoffs. They went the wrong way in trying to make their ascend to go win a Super Bowl.
But at least the Bills were respectable and good and won the division and won, double-digit games. The thing about the Lions, listen, you want to say you believe in the Chiefs or the 49ers or the Eagles? Fine, go for it. But
no bleep, Sherlock, all right?
When it's the Lions, I want them to be good so bad. I want Dan Campbell to succeed. I want Detroit to have a winner. I want to see Detroit win a playoff game or two. I just can't buy into it until I see it.
Well, you know what's going to happen. I hate to be this guy speculating when the world is going to end. But do you even think we're getting to the start of football season? People are picking the Jets. People are talking positively about the Lions. Now people are loving the Commanders because Daniel Snyder's not there. Those 3 teams people are believing in. The world's just not going to continue if that's the world that we have to live in, where people are genuflecting to the Jets, the Lions, and the Commanders. I think the world's ending within 3 weeks. We're screwed.
Hey, listen, as a Jet fan myself,
take your vacation
I can tell
now.
You can put all the money you want on the Jets. It's never going to come to fruition. That is a losing wager.
But also, I think Maggie and Perloff are onto something. Maggie and Perloff are probably thinking the same way I am, and that's why Maggie's on vacation this week, and that's why Perloff's on vacation as well. Getting all the time with the family before the whole world just ends in a snap of a finger.
Well, we had the draft of how the world will end.
Oh, did you guys really?
Yeah, we did.
When did you guys do that?
We did this on Wednesday.
Summer radio at its finest, by the way.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And my pick was global warming / climate change and aliens.
Okay.
We had super volcanoes in there, pandemic,
aliens.
Nuclear warfare, a whole bunch of things.
You know what? If aliens exist, and if they come on down, and some people say they already have, maybe in Las Vegas.
They have.
I'm going right up to the alien, and I'm just hoisting Samter up in the air and just have the alien have a conversation with Samter for about 5 minutes. the aliens will go right back to where they came from, and they'll leave us all alone.
Either that or they're going to hate us even more and want to destroy us faster.
Stu, who's a team that you're saying, I kind of like a little bit more than what most people are saying heading into this NFL season?
Yeah, Bears came to mind originally.
I'm shocked, both of you guys with the Bears.
Just because Justin Fields is someone who I think is going to make a big jump this year.
Yeah, I'm concerned actually about Fields, and I'm a Fields fan, but when he's already talking about the 4,000 passing yards and how that's definitely going to happen, and people are making the case for Justin Fields MVP, it comes off very Lions-like to me, where everyone's telling you this player is going to be great. In the Lions' case, this team's going to be great. And that just once again makes the hair on my neck just stand up a little bit and go, I'm not willing to go there with everybody else. Anyone else for you, Stu?
Yeah, also the Panthers, assuming Bryce Young can have a good rookie year and a breakout rookie year. You have a guy like Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, some talent around there. I'm not thinking they're like a Super Bowl contender or anything like that, but as a team that can maybe squeak into the playoffs in a weaker division, I think the Panthers are an option.
Well, that's the key. It's a weaker division. And when you have a weaker division, you don't need this elite. You don't need this great talent. You just got to be mediocre. And the NFC South is who could just be mediocre along the way and not have this downward spiral. And if you're just able to hover around 8 or 9 wins, you're going to have a heck of a shot to win that division. All right, we'll try to connect with Ricky Williams. Obviously, he's running late. Zach Gelb in for Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. Give me a team that you're more optimistic on than most of the world heading into this season. My 2 teams, Minnesota, I think they'll make the playoffs. I think they'll win their division, the NFC North. And then in the NFC South, I'm going to hold my nose when I do this to pick a team.
And I'm going to pick the Atlanta Falcons. That's the team that I'm going to end up going with.
Zach Gelb Show. Sorry about that. Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. Zach Gelb filling in for Maggie and Andrew. We will take a timeout. We'll come on back after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. Minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back in. Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. Zach Gelb filling in for Maggie and Perloff. So we were all under the assumption that Jim Harbaugh was going to be out the first 4 games of the year, which is one of the more ridiculous potential suspensions ever. One of the infractions was that he bought a few recruits some cheeseburgers, but that's the NCAA. It's not really the infractions, and there's some impermissible contact with coaches where they were at events that they shouldn't have been and like watching players via cameras and things like that. But for the most part, the NCAA didn't really have a problem with the violations. It was more so when Jim Harbaugh was asked about it, he reportedly lied about it. But about a week, 2 weeks ago, we were under the impression that the NCAA Committee of Infractions was going to accept an agreed-upon suspension with Jim Harbaugh of 4 games, and he would have been out for the first 4 games of the season, which are all cupcake games for the Michigan Wolverines, and then he'd be back on the sideline up against Nebraska, a game that's I'm going to 2 college football games this year, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to Michigan, Nebraska, so I'm going to that game in Lincoln, and then the plan right now is Thanksgiving weekend. I'll do Thanksgiving with my family on Thursday, then that Friday I'm going to fly to Detroit and make my way over to Ann Arbor and go to Michigan, Ohio State, because that's going to be just a ridiculous game. That should be for a spot in the Big Ten championship and probably who's going to go to the college football playoff out of the Big Ten, even though you do look around and you do see in the Big Ten this year, Penn State's also going to be a team that could potentially disrupt either Michigan or Ohio State finding a way to get into the college football playoff this year. You also may have 2 Big Ten teams in the college football playoff. So this whole Jim Harbaugh situation, it's one where we thought there was going to be a 4-game suspension, and the Committee of Infractions rejected that. And my take from it now is that I do believe that Jim Harbaugh is going to leave or try to leave for the NFL at the end of the season, but we'll see if any NFL team wants him back on their sidelines. All righty, we'll get back to that story in just a bit. Right now, always love talking to my next guest, Heisman Trophy winner Ricky Williams, who's kind enough to join us right now on CBS Sports Radio. Ricky, great to see you as always. How you been? Having trouble hearing Ricky. Let's just see if we could get him up. Let's see if we can connect with Ricky Williams. Ricky, can you hear me? Yeah. I'm not getting Ricky, guys, so let's just see if we could reconnect with him. Very much forward looking to this conversation. We got him there? All right, Ricky, let's see. Third time a charm. Can Ricky Williams hear me? Ricky, how you been?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing fantastic. So let me start you off with your company. We've talked about this for a few years now. We've had you in studio before. What's the latest going on with the Heisman?
We're still growing. We're really seeing an opportunity to become one of the first national brands that promotes cannabis. As the culture is changing around cannabis, like I said, it's a great opportunity, and we're pushing on.
So what do you hope to accomplish? Like the end goal, you talk about that you keep on pushing on. What's the end goal for Ricky Williams in this endeavor?
I mean, really, it's about improving the quality of life of people. And for me, because of the stigma, I stayed away from cannabis for a large part of my life. And I've heard this story over and over again with retired athletes is when they retire, they start consuming cannabis and they realize, wow, I wish I would have found this when I was playing, because they realize the relief they get and they don't have to take as many pharmaceuticals and do even more damage to their bodies. So it's really about quality of life.
And if during your playing career, right, if it was accepted, if it wasn't frowned upon with the way that you're talking about, how do you think, and your story is well documented like you were talking about, Ricky Williams, like what do you think would have been different for you?
Again, a quality of life.
Yeah.
I was doing something and it hurt my reputation. It hurt the amount of money I was able to make. And it really made the other things, the platform that I created for myself as a professional athlete, it really slowed down the work that I could do off the field. And anyone who's doing this, at least back then, really had to hide. And I think when you're hiding anything you do, it really is a waste of time and energy.
Yeah, it's crazy. You last played in the NFL with the Ravens in 2011. To see where we are now, which, yeah, it's a lot of time, but in the large scheme of things, it's really not where we are in 2023. It's crazy how quickly the world has really revolved here, Ricky. Evolved.
Yeah, it's amazing. I guess as you get old enough, things change. And when you're young, you don't really appreciate it. But like I said, as you get older, it becomes obvious.
Talking to Ricky Williams, I was watching that Netflix documentary on Johnny Manziel, who also won a Heisman last week. And it was impossible when I was watching it to not think, if he still has his Heisman, which I believe he should, man, Reggie Bush should get his Heisman Trophy back. Where do you stand on that issue, being a Heisman Trophy winner?
Man, I think especially now with the NIL deal and as the facts come out about Reggie's situation, it's silly that people haven't said something and given him back the trophy. He earned it, and I don't think he did anything wrong. And now that everyone's getting paid, it seems silly.
And that's got to be like annoying for you, because you know what it takes to be a really great running back, and you see someone put in the work, and then just to take away that award and pretend as if he never won it. That's a frustrating part with what the NCAA does, is we all see things go on, and then after the fact, they try to tell us that those things never happened.
Well, it's tricky because we say it's an amateur game, and the word amateur comes from the root amor, which means you're supposed to be playing for the love of the game. And back then, that meant that you couldn't get paid for it. But college football, a huge business. So There's a lot of people getting paid for it. So, I think we're figuring it out, and we're acknowledging that the NCAA is a business. And I think that's going to help so things like this don't happen in the future.
I know last time we talked to you, Ricky Williams, you were at a rookie conference, and you were kind of giving advice to some of the youngsters. I know you were hanging with Bijan Robinson, a fellow Longhorn. When you talk to some of these players that are just entering the league, with your experience and seeing all the different versions of it, just what are some of the things that you advise athletes now?
Two things. One is take care of yourself, and the second one is aligned with the first one, speak up. I think one of the most difficult things about being a professional athlete, especially a professional football player, is dealing with injuries. And only we know what we got in the tank. And if we're at 65%, 85%, 100%, a piece of advice I got as a rookie is they're always going to expect or think that you're at 100%.
Yeah.
And so I just tell the athletes, it doesn't mean don't play. It means just speak up. Don't be the tough guy. You have to learn to take care of yourself, especially if you want to last a long time in this game.
And I know these guys have been in the league for a little bit longer, but you're seeing a lot of the running backs now speak up with the state of the position. Ricky Williams, like Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, You go through the list, Josh Jacobs. Just what do you kind of make of this dilemma that we're in now where it seems like everyone's getting paid but the running backs?
Yeah, it's a dilemma, but it's like in any market, things go up and things go down. And back, especially early in my career, most teams built their team around defense and having a strong running game. And I think as the game has evolved, the market on running backs has gone down. And it puts the onus on the running backs to get together and do something about it. And I think it's good for running backs. I watched the big podcast with Saquon before training camp. And as I watched it, I kind of had deja vu. I felt like that was me, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now, as a running back, because we take so much of a pounding, we don't have long careers, which means that we need to try to get our money more on the front end and start thinking about what we want to do in the back end, because, quality of life. And if you try to play running back for 10 years, it's going to be tough to maintain quality of life post-football.
So what would you do if you were like a Josh Jacobs right now who has a franchise tag? That $10 million, if you sit out, you're never going to be able to earn it back. Would you just play eventually and show up when training camp's over and take that full $10 million, or do you kind of prove a bigger point here and miss a few games?
I'd take the money and play one season, because my point is for a running back to look for longevity. I'm not sure. And I think the teams feel the same way. I think and that's why it's difficult.
Talking to Ricky Williams. So let me ask you about your alma mater, Sark. A lot of people are believing in him this year. You got Quinn Ewers at quarterback. You have Arch Manning waiting in the wings. Probably won't play until next year. Final year of Big 12 football for Texas. So what are your views on the Texas program right now?
What's funny, so going back a bunch of years to my freshman year at Texas, and it was our last year in the Southwest Conference before we entered the Big 12. And Texas had kind of been down and quiet for a while, but that last year we ended up winning the Southwest Conference, and then the next year we ended up winning the first inaugural Big 12 conference. And so I'm feeling a little deja vu, and I think that, for the first time in the past several coaches, or at least coaches since Mac Brown left, there's been like a lot of hype and then a crash. And I feel like with Sark, there's hype slowly building, and he's building on success. So I think this is really a breakout year for Texas.
And I can't wait for that game up against Alabama, because if Quinn Ewers didn't get hurt last year, I thought your alma mater would have defeated Alabama in that ball game.
Yeah, definitely. I think the way they played last year gives them confidence to feel like they can go up to Tuscaloosa and get a victory.
On the way out with Ricky Williams. All right, I got to ask you about Bijan Robinson. Year one expectations, everyone's going to be talking about them. I had my fantasy football draft last night. Ricky, I drafted him 6th overall, and all my friends in the room were like, oh, that's early. I wasn't expecting that. With Bijan Robinson, what do you think he's capable of year one in the NFL?
Yeah, what he's capable of, it really, sky is the limit. He can do so many wonderful things. They talk about running backs in the passing game, but he not only can catch, but he can make big plays in the passing game. And the thing that I'm most excited about for Bijan this year is we talked about running backs, and because of the shift in the game, there aren't a lot of offensive schemes that really spend a lot of time and energy scheming the run game. There are a few teams that do, and the Falcons are one. So I think if Bijan can stay healthy, he's going to put up big numbers this year.
What does someone like Bijan Robinson ask you? A guy, right, that kind of walked in your shoes as well when he was at Texas, had all the hype around him, the big expectations. I'm sure you guys have some sort of relationship, but what are those conversations like with you and Bijan Robinson?
No, it's really just support. He's been doing this for a long time. I mean, making plays, scoring touchdowns. And I think when he has a rough game or dealing with an injury, I feel like that's when I've been most helpful and useful. Just to hear someone you respect who's been through something similar, give you some words of encouragement. It seems like that's been the best I've been able to offer him, because, the stuff on the field, he's taking care of that himself pretty well.
Last thing I'll ask you, have you seen any of Deuce Vaughn so far with the Cowboys? This guy's 5'5", a rookie, and man, he could really make some defenders look silly.
Yeah, he's fun to watch. He spent a lot of time in Austin. His dad was on Coach Strong's coaching staff, so I got a chance to get to know him then. And so it's been fun to see an Austin connection doing great things in the state of Texas.
So how can people find out more information now about the company that I love just because of the name Heisman that you're doing great work with?
Yeah, Heisman.com. It's really easy. And it's not just about cannabis. It really is a lifestyle of being yourself and having an open mind. I mean, anyone who's followed my story, it's my brand, so it's about the things that I'm into.
Well, Ricky Williams, once again, that's Heisman, Highsman, if you want to check it out.com. Always appreciate catching up. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
There you go. Ricky Williams joining us, Maggie and Perloff show right here on CBS Sports Radio. Zach Gelb filling in for both Maggie and Andrew on this Monday. Let's take a break. We'll come on back. When we do return, we'll jump back into that Jim Harbaugh story and also take a look ahead to the college football season as the first AP poll of the year, the top 25, was released. But first up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here she is, Erica Herskowitz.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Hey, Zach, let's get it going with the NFL. The Cowboys reportedly worked out a deal with All-Pro guard Zach Martin, so that ends his holdout. Under the terms of the new contract, Martin will reportedly get more than $18 million in 2023 and 2024. Meanwhile, the Ravens activated leading rusher J.K. Dobbins off the PUP list. Dobbins didn't practice in any of the offseason spring workouts, including mandatory minicamp, and missed the first 14 practices of training camp, reportedly angry that he's entering the fourth and final year of his deal due to earn $1.4 million. The Rays released a statement today saying the team and Wander Franco have mutually agreed that the 22-year-old shortstop will go on the restricted list and take a leave from the club for its current road trip. The Rays began a 6-game West Coast road swing today in San Francisco. And two-time defending national champion Georgia was ranked first in the top 25 preseason AP college football poll, which was released this morning. Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, and LSU round out the top 5. I'm Erica Herskowitz.
Looking for CBS Sports Radio online? Your favorite hosts and the best sports content and entertainment are available 24/7 on social media and YouTube, and in the palm of your hand with the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio. Zach Gelb in for Maggie and Perloff. It's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day, and it's brought to you by our good friends at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Randy in Alabama wants to know, guys, what do you think about the first AP Top 25 poll of the year? You could submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or Maggie and Pearl using the hashtag Ask the Pros. And make sure you think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here are my thoughts. Alabama keeps on getting the benefit of the doubt. Probably no one believes in Alabama year in and year out more than yours truly. I think it's stupid to doubt Nick Saban, but heading into this season, I do think there is a realistic argument to be made that Alabama, once again, isn't in the college football playoff. And I know next year it goes to 12 teams. This year, it's the final year of the 4-team installment of the college football playoff. But Georgia, until someone takes down Georgia, they're the kings of college football. Michigan returned so many players entering this year. McCarthy, you got Blake Corum, Edwards as well. They've been able the last 2 years to lose defensive talent and find a way to replenish that. So I do believe the AP got it right in their first two teams, and it being Georgia and it being Michigan. But then when we get to the 3 through 5 spots, I do think the 3 teams in some order have to be Ohio State, Alabama, and LSU. The AP ended up going Ohio State 3, Alabama 4, and LSU 5. For me, I actually put LSU as the third best team in the country entering this season. I'm a big fan of Jaden Daniels, and on the defensive side of the ball, they arguably have the best defensive player in the conference in Harold Perkins. And remember, last year, LSU was the team that represented their division in the SEC championship game, and it wasn't Alabama. And look how much a big difference 1 year makes. in the way that we were talking about Brian Kelly with his family heading into last season and the creepy recruiting dances that he was doing with recruits. You go in year number one, yeah, the first game of the season didn't go your way, but then at the end of the year, yeah, you didn't fare well up against Georgia, but you were in that SEC championship game. That was an enormous win for Brian Kelly. And say what you want about Brian Kelly, he did a remarkable job, even though it was an ugly end at Notre Dame. But whenever you leave, it's not usually a pretty ending. And I know that in the big spots, he got exposed. But now you go to LSU, where we've seen Nick Saban, understandably so, win a national title, but not the way that we viewed Nick Saban as we do today. You had Les Miles win a national title, and then also Ed Orgeron, go Tigers, win a national title as well. There's no doubt in my mind that Brian Kelly is capable of winning a national title in the SEC at LSU. So for me, I have the Tigers in at 3. I would actually go Ohio State 4 because of their receiving room, and then in at 5, the uncertainty at quarterback. Are the wide receivers going to take a jump this year because they were god-awful last year? I'll put Alabama in at 5. So a lot of times when people predict Alabama outside of the top 4 of the college football playoff heading into a season, I will sit back and I'll say, that's someone that is just trying to make a name for themselves, that someone's just trying to generate clicks. But it is not inconceivable that heading into this year, Alabama once again does not make the college football playoff. And you know the dealio. And I rarely doubt Nick Saban. Usually when people doubt him, he usually shuts everybody up. But entering this season right now on paper, and that's why it's a preseason poll, I do believe it's Georgia 1, Michigan 2, LSU 3, Ohio State 4, and then Alabama in at 5 would be the way that I look at the top 5 teams in college football entering this season. Now, some other reactions in the AP top 25 poll. USC's in at 6. I don't think USC wins the Pac-12 this year. They're going to beat up on one another inside the Pac-12. The Pac-12 may have the best quarterback conference in college football out of the Power 5 entering this season. My big concern for USC, sure, they have Lincoln Riley. Sure, they have Caleb Williams. But defensively, I don't like that defense. And that defense the last year was just god-awful. So that defense, I think, is going to prevent them from getting in the college football playoff. I'm never optimistic on this team because I don't trust their coach. But Penn State, on paper, has a heck of a team this year. They're in at 7. I like what Mike Norvell did last year at Florida State. They're in at 8. In at 9. And I would put Florida State in the ACC in front of the team that's in 9 like the Associated Press poll did. They put Clemson. I'm fascinated to see how we're talking about the Clemson Tigers at the end of this year. Because the appeal of Clemson, even though they won the ACC last year, has lost its luster. Where for a while, Dabo Swinney and the way that we're talking about Kirby Smart right now, that's what Dabo was kind of doing. Because he was that one team that was able to take it to Nick Saban and do so multiple times and win multiple national championships. But I look at Clemson right now. No more Tony Elliott, that's been the case now for 2 years. No more Brent Venables, been the case for 2 years. DJ Uiagalelei did not work out the way that we thought it was going to be. Cade Klubnik is going to need to be phenomenal this year for Dabo Swinney to find himself in the college football playoff. And for Clemson, and I said this to Isaiah Simmons when we were at the Super Bowl, I'm like, Clemson's taking a step back. And he goes, what do you mean? We just won the ACC this year. Yeah, you're supposed to win the ACC. The ACC is not this marvelous football conference. You don't see a lot of teams saying, I'm leaving the Pac-12 or I'm becoming an independent and joining a conference to go join the ACC. There's a reason why teams are flocking and going to the SEC and going to the Big Ten. So just winning the ACC for Clemson, we shouldn't throw a parade. It's also getting to the college football playoff. And last year, they weren't able to do that. And then wrapping out the Associated Press top 25 poll, they do have Washington at 10. I love the job that Kalen DeBoer has done. Year 1 last year at Washington, you had a healthy Michael Penix Jr. as well. Could have made a case that he should have been a Heisman Trophy finalist. He was not on my ballot for the Heisman. Last year, I had Caleb Williams 1, Max Duggan 2, and then I did go with Blake Corum in at 3. But then other teams that stand out outside of the top 10. Texas at 11. I don't know about you guys. I actually believe in Texas this year to win the Big 12. You look at the Big 12, there's no team I love. I know the Big 12, the preseason media poll at Texas in at 1. I look at Texas this year, and I usually laugh when people ask, is Texas back? Because the answer is usually always no. Going into this year, I'm a believer in Quinn Ewers. I think Sark is moving that program in the right direction. I could see, and I am picking Texas to win the Big 12. So the AP giving them their love, I thought that was interesting. And now it is outside the top 10, but that is the first Big 12 team to make an appearance in the Associated Press Top 25 poll. Other teams of interest, Tennessee's in at 12. I think we're all curious what Joe Milton's going to be. Notre Dame's in at 13. You have Sam Hartman. You got Marcus Freeman. Utah's at 14. Underappreciated Utah is back-to-back years winning the Pac-12. What's Cam Rising coming off the ACL injury? Oregon's in at 15. Bo Nix took a big step last year. So those are the top 15 teams in the Associated Press Top 25 poll. But I don't know how many years straight it's been, but I saw someone today that it's been a while where a team outside of the top 7 in the Associated Press poll hasn't won the national championship. So if you're going off of that, it's either going to be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, USC, and Penn State this year. I do believe Michigan takes that step to a national title game. And until someone takes down Georgia, I'm not going to be the team that picks against Georgia. So I think we're on a collision course for Georgia and Michigan in the national title game. But you look at the SEC, LSU is going to be a player. You count Alabama out, they find a way to be a player. And inside the Big Ten, I think we're splitting hairs right now, where Michigan gets the edge for what they've done the last 2 years and the talent that they have. But Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, it would not shock me out of any of those three if you tell me which one goes to the college football playoff. And you could have a case where the Pac-12 is going to beat up on one another. The ACC isn't strong. The Big 12 is going to beat up on one another. Last year, we saw 2 Big 10 teams get in. For so many years, it felt like 2 SEC teams get in. It wouldn't shock me if you have Georgia, Michigan in, and then 2 other teams in the Big 10 and the SEC get into the college football playoff. And wouldn't that be fitting, Samter? We're now moving away from, it feels like, the Power 5, and it's really the SEC, it's really the Big 10, and then everybody else. It would be fitting with the landscape of college football if this is the year where we get 2 Big 10 teams and 2 SEC teams in the final year of 4 teams in the college football playoff.
I would be surprised this year because the Big Ten is still strong enough that I feel like, whether it's Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State, one of those teams or 2 of those teams are going to have 2 losses. You think about the.
But that's the way that you could get in.
Yeah, 2
because
losses
all the
in
other
Big
teams
Ten would still be tough. I mean, it's possible, but I think there's still enough strength in the ACC and the Pac-12 that somebody might sneak into the Big 12. But a team that you didn't mention, and one of the things that just stands out to me, there's so many big name, good quarterbacks in college football this year. You didn't even mention Drake May and UNC down at 21, or Ole Miss and A&M. There are so many good teams. TCU was in the playoffs last year.
They lost a lot of talent.
Sure, but they're there as well. There's so many good teams with so many good quarterbacks that this year feels like it's going to be one of the most intriguing, interesting college football seasons that we've seen in decades.
So I didn't mention A&M for a very big reason, and that's their head football coach in Jimbo Fisher, where Jimbo Fisher is the most overrated coach in college football. He has talent where he should be able to contend for the SEC crown this year, or at least be in the title game. I don't think he's going to get there. Ole Miss, I like Lane Kiffin a lot. I just don't know who's going to start at quarterback in their current QB battle right now. UNC is a good one. I don't want to call them a sleeper team, but a lot of people like Mac Brown, and everyone right now in the ACC is picking either Clemson or they're picking Florida State. Drake May, I don't think he'll be the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He's going to probably be 2 if the team needs a quarterback at 2, but he's the second best quarterback, I believe, in college football. That's a team that if they win the ACC, I'm sure there's good value on it right now. That's the way that I would say it. I'm picking my Power 5 conference champs right now. SEC, Georgia. Big 10, I'm going Michigan. In the Big 12, I'm going Texas. ACC, I'm taking Florida State. And then the Pac-12, I'm rocking and rolling with Washington.
Wow.
Yeah, I like DeBoer. And I was not a believer in Michael Penix Jr., and I was not a believer in Bo Nix, both of them, last year with Oregon and Washington. But both of them did a nice way to rewrite the conversation about them. And everyone's going to pick USC because of Caleb Williams. Defensively, they scare the crap out of me. And they do not have a good defense. And if they can't get in this year, I know it eventually goes to 12 and they'll find the way into the college football playoff, but it doesn't get any easier for them going to the Big Ten where it is right now with the success that they're capable of having in the Pac-12. Also, this Jim Harbaugh stuff, I was surprised that this just wasn't over and done with the 4-game suspension. And the Committee of Infractions rejected that. And this is to prove a point to Harbaugh. Oh, you lied to us, or you're not willing to admit that you lied, blah, blah, blah. There's no doubt about it in my mind that if it's up to Jim Harbaugh, this would be his final year at Michigan. Not because he is looking to leave Michigan, because he's just tired of the NCAA. You know, I don't want to sound like Allen Iverson where it's like we're talking about practice. We're talking about cheeseburgers. Are you like that's what we're talking about? Cheeseburgers. And I think he's so fed up that it's no longer a matter of him wanting to leave. It's does an NFL team want him? Because 2 years ago, he was with Adolfo Mensa and the Vikings for 10 hours, and they didn't offer him the job. Last year, he was begging to go get an NFL job. Broncos didn't bite. Panthers didn't bite. And it just comes down to, even though we've seen guys away from the NFL for a while, and he made it to 3 conference title games with the Niners and a Super Bowl, is will an NFL owner get back in on Jim Harbaugh? And if an owner says, here's a contract, I want you to become a head coach, I think he's good as gone after the season at Michigan.
I don't think there's any team in the NFL who wouldn't want Jim Harbaugh as their coach. The problem is I think Jim Harbaugh wants to be a GM or have some player personnel control as well, and teams just don't want to do that now. Unless you're Bill Belichick, teams just don't want to give up that control, especially if they believe in their front office. So if Harbaugh really wants out, and they're going to have this much harder suspension or this much harder penalty for next year, then he's going to probably have to come back down a little bit on some of his demands to get into the NFL.
It would also be a great bleep you move if he's at that podium with the national title and the trophy, and then shortly after that he goes, I love Michigan, but then you lead a charge that it's the NCAA that's running me out over cheeseburgers. And the next thing you know, he's at his introductory press conference with an NFL team, like let's just say the Commanders, and he's just eating a bunch of cheeseburgers. Oh, I would love that. That would be great. That would be a dream to see.
That would be Garrett Wilson level troll jobs.
You saw that over the weekend.
Oh, man, I love it.
A little response to Sean Payton going after Nate Hackett. How about the Jets? All they do is defend Nate Hackett these days.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
There were parents there of 8 and 9-year-olds who their kids are hearing some terms for sexual acts and then came back to the parents and said, "What is this?"
Ooh, that's a tough one. My daughter's memorized about 15 Nicki Minaj songs.
Oh, boy.
So she knows a little more than I am. Sometimes I go to her with questions.
What is WAP?
You know, it's an interesting moment, and it's related. When your kid drops a curse word on you, my daughter, like 9, didn't like this teacher. My daughter's this cute little thing. She goes, "Bleeping Miss What's her name?" I was like, whoa.
Working blue. Wow.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
All right, what's happening? Hour number 3 of our radio program. Zach Gelb in for both Maggie and Andrew on this Monday. David Wright going to stop by coming up 20 minutes from now. We say hello to the Weekdays and Purple Drinkers on the YouTube chat. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, where you could always stream the Maggie and Perloff show. You can always give us a call, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. At Zach Gelb on Twitter and Instagram is where you could follow me. So some breaking news in the NFL. And it gives me a reaction of, who cares? Ezekiel Elliott has signed a 1-year contract with the New England Patriots, and he'll make up to $6 million for this season. So Zeke's time in Dallas is now donezo. We know he got released by the organization, and there was some thought that maybe Jerry Jones would bring him back. Or you're on the market, haven't really got anything, maybe Jerry Jones will say, "We'll bring you back." And I would have thought that would have been a stupid decision by the Dallas Cowboys. The last 2 years, Ezekiel Elliott has been a declining running back in this league. If you had a brain and you were watching Cowboys football the last 2 years, you knew Tony Pollard was a better running back. There's still a role for Ezekiel Elliott, and that's now no longer being thought of as a bell cow back and joining what the NFL running back position is in the year of 2023, and that's being a part of a committee. And you look at New England, their best running back is by far and away Ramondre Stevenson. They just lost Damian Harris, who is now a part of the Buffalo Bills. So there was a need for another running back. And Ezekiel Elliott is an adequate number 2 running back piece on limited carries. But you look at the Patriots, this is just a move that, yeah, it's a name. Yes, some people that follow football from afar and aren't really caught up to date with the Patriots roster will go, okay, yeah, it's a fine move. It's a good move for New England. But I do think New England missed an opportunity this offseason. Where you look at the Patriots, I had 2 things that I wanted to see them do this offseason. One, go get a legit offensive coordinator. Because I don't usually like to get disgusted with my football team because I feel as if then I'm a rich kid just complaining that mom didn't reload the debit card account with how much winning I've seen over the last 20 years with the 6 Super Bowl championships, and each and every year with Tom Brady, the Patriots would be in the AFC title game. So the last few years, I see some Patriot fans losing their mind. I'm not one of them because I can't really get all that annoyed and perturbed because of the magic ride that Patriot fans are on for the better part of the last 20 years. But heading into this year, you could have demands. You could have things that you would like to see happen. And I asked for 2 things. One, and they're both fairly simple. Go get a legit offensive coordinator. They checked that off. They did that, bringing back Bill O'Brien. Because I could not watch another season of those 2 bozos and Matt Patricia and then also Joe Judge calling plays on the offensive side of the ball. It's just a disservice to a young quarterback, regardless of what you think of Mac Jones, whether you love him or you hate him. You got to put him in a position to succeed. And they did not do that with Mac Jones last year. So congratulations, the Patriots got a legit offensive coordinator. But the other thing was go get a number 1 wide receiver. And I said this now 4,000 times on CBS Sports Radio. I said this on this show. I said this on my own show, the Zach Gelb show on CBS Sports Radio. You've seen the trend with some young quarterbacks in this league. When did Josh Allen take off? When he got Stephon Diggs. When did Jalen Hurts turn into a guy that was in the Super Bowl and a guy that was looking like an MVP candidate? When he got Devontae Smith and then also A.J. Brown. You take a glance at the Patriots. Yes, it's one thing to go get Mac Jones, a viable offensive coordinator, but did you get him that number 1 wide receiver? You brought in Mike Gesicki this year at a tight end spot. You still have Hunter Henry. You have Kendrick Bourne. You brought in Juju Smith-Schuster. You reworked the deal to keep Devontae Parker and extend Devontae Parker. Tyquan Thornton has to be healthy. He's in your number 2. But there's no number 1 wide receiver that makes you say, wow, that's the guy. And I know this is a team-friendly deal. It's a cheap deal. I wonder what the actual salary is when it says that he'll make up to $6 million and what the base salary is and what he needs to do to get to $6 million. But it's still crazy to me with DeAndre Hopkins, who was available. I know he's with Tennessee now, that the Patriots weren't able to get DeAndre Hopkins in that building and ink him to a deal. And they had him in the building, but they clearly weren't willing to give him the deal that he was looking for. And it was probably heavily incentivized because you know how Bill Belichick is with money. If he was frugal with Tom Brady, he'll be frugal with a lot of players in and outside the organization. So you go into this year, and there's just some teams that you really have no expectations for. And the Patriots are one of those teams where I don't expect the Patriots to make the playoffs, but if you tell me they go 10-7 or the 7th seed in the wild card, is anyone going to be shocked by that? I wouldn't be stunned. I'm not believing it. I think they're going to miss the playoffs this year. I think they're going to be an 8-win football team. I think they're going to be 8-9 or at best 9-8. They're not going to be dreadful, but they're not going to be a good football team. But Bill Belichick in the last few years, I know people are down on Belichick now, and part of this is Bill is the GM and also the coach. You look at what GM Bill has given head coach Bill, the GM's not doing his job. But Coach Bill Belichick with the roster that's what? A bottom 10, at times bottom 5 roster in the NFL. He made the playoffs one year, and then last year they regressed. And, the Cam year was kind of a wash because they didn't get Cam in for so late. But the GM has not done in the last 3 years a good enough job to give the coach a chance to succeed. And a lot of other coaches around the NFL, they get the roster the Patriots have. They're not hovering around the playoffs. Patriots ended the final week of the season last year with an opportunity to defeat Buffalo to make the playoffs. And a year ago, they were in the postseason. So I look at this Patriot team, they're just one of those teams where they're like, blah, entering this year. And there's some teams that you look at around the NFL and you go, yeah, don't really have much expectations for them, where they're in that mediocre category and they're in that mediocre conversation. The Patriots entering this season, they really are the definition of mediocre, where they have a defense with Matthew Judon, where the defense and also that secondary will win you some games. You know, Belichick always finds a way on special teams to win 1 or 2 games a year just based off something crazy with the special teams. But offensively, does anyone really scare you on the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots? Mac Jones doesn't scare you. Ramondre Stevenson is a solid running back. But if that's arguably your best offensive player, running backs and one running back isn't what defines you in the NFL anymore. And your best wide receiver is Juju Smith-Schuster, who is the definition of a number 2 wide receiver. Sometimes he's like a 1.5. But when he was in Pittsburgh and he was given that opportunity to be a 1, he didn't look like a number 1 wide receiver. So you look around this team this year, you're far removed from the days of Tom Brady where the expectation is, yeah, if they just got to the divisional round of the playoffs, it would be a failure. But it used to be Super Bowl or bust every year in New England. And no crap, Brady leaves and the team takes a big step back. But now it's been a few years. You know, this just isn't in the first 2 years. You're now entering year 4 away from Tom Brady. And they've missed the playoffs, made the playoffs, missed the playoffs. And this year, if I'm a betting man, even though they're my team, I'd be stupid to pick the Patriots to make the playoffs. So this is like a last-ditch effort to bring in a big name. And some fans will say, oh, Ezekiel Elliott's in. Oh, look at Bill. He went out there and got a star player, but Ezekiel Elliott's nowhere close to being a star anymore. He was just released by the Dallas Cowboys. Like, put it this way. Just because you're released doesn't mean you're no longer a star. If the Patriots brought in Dalvin Cook, I would be optimistic. I'd be happy about that move. But bringing in Ezekiel Elliott, who's past his prime and who's now a number 2 running back, it doesn't do anything for me. But it does kind of fall in line of what the Patriots are going to be this year, where they have some names, they have some players that you like, but there's no expectation of greatness or check greatness, just being good. I don't think this is going to be a good football team this year, but they're not going to be dreadful. Like when Stu's Raiders are good, they're in the postseason. But then when they're dreadful, they're 4 or 5 wins. There's no in-between where you vacillate and some weeks you look like you're really good and then some weeks you look like you're really bad. That's what the Patriots are going to be this year. They're going to be a team, good, bad, good, bad, 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 good, bad, good, bad. That's what they're going to be this year. And they're in an AFC that it's very tough. You either have a quarterback or you don't. And you're in an AFC East that's loaded. Now, Buffalo and what they've done the last few years, even though it hasn't led to a Super Bowl, if Tua could be healthy, have fun going up against the Miami Dolphins, and for the first time in a long time, and man, things are really going well for Michael Samter. You know, just welcomed in a daughter to his family. You know, family life's good, work is good, and now he's got a quarterback, Ayahuasca Aaron, with the Jets, Jets. And you look at the Jets, people are talking glowingly about that organization. Where it used to be death taxes and the Jets will find a way to mess it up. Now people are taking that last part and they're chucking it out the window. The Patriots are the 4th team in this division. And it's splitting hairs, and this shows the gap. Where the Patriots won't be putrid, but they're not going to be great. They're not going to even be good. They're going to be like floating around. I know there's an extra game now, but like right around 500. That's what the Patriots are. And you look at this team entering this year and the division they're in, the AFC East, 1, 2, 3, pick whatever order you want. Bills, Dolphins, Jets. I wouldn't yell at you. But if you try to put the Patriots in at 3, I can't accept that right now. And there's a big separation where for 20 years, those teams were lost. Those teams were helpless in chasing the Patriots. And now this division has done a complete 180. So I have no expectations of them being good, no expectations of them being great this year. And really, this Ezekiel Elliott move, Samter, it's the definition of so what? Where it's not a horrible move, but it's not a great move. They'll get some production out of Ezekiel Elliott, but it doesn't change my outlook on the Pats for this upcoming season.
And at the end of the day, as a Jets fan, it just makes me happy knowing that it's one less team that Dalvin Cook is going to go to. So give me Cook on the Jets for sure, or the Dolphins, I guess, but the Jets. Yeah, it's an move. You know, Zeke Elliott 5 years ago, it moves the needle a little bit.
Oh, yeah, big play.
But the Patriots do have a reasonable run game now. So, like, maybe now between Zeke Elliott and the other committee of backs they have there in New England,
Stevenson.
Maybe it takes that pressure off of Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi or Malik Cunningham, whoever ends up starting for the Pats. So, like, at the end of the day, it's an move, but it could also be a move that has trickled down domino effect for the rest of the team that helps the offense in certain other kinds of ways.
Put it this way, if the Patriots are going to be a playoff team this year, they're going to have to win off their defense and special teams. And the offense is just going to have to be average. Like, they have enough on offense to be average. They could be an average offense, but they're going to need their defense to be top 5, and they're going to need their special teams to be elite. And if you have elite special teams play, elite defensive play, and then average quarterback play, you could be a wild card team, but you're not winning a Super Bowl that way because you're not going to have a good enough defense like the Ravens did in the early 2000s, right? No one's, and I've said this for years. A lot of years people say the Patriots defense is great. I'm talking about in recent memory, like the last 3 or 4 years. You know, I'm not talking about 03, 04, those teams that won. But in the last 3 or 4 years, people are like, oh, the Patriots have a great defense. I'm like, nope. They have a good defense, a very good defense. That year where Sam Darnold was seeing ghosts, people go, oh, this is a great defense. This is an unbelievable defense. I go, no, they're not. They're a good defense. As the season did go on, they showed that they were just a good defense. You need a great defense. You need great special teams if your offense in the year of 2023 is going to be Zach Gelb for Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a timeout. When we come on back, David Wright is going to join us. We'll return in 5 minutes.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. Remaining. .45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We continue here on Maggie and Perloff. Zach Gelb in for both Maggie and Andrew, who are both off enjoying vacation this entire week. I'll be here for 3 days, today, Tuesday, and then also on Thursday. I believe JR will be in on Wednesday from the JR Sport Brief Extravaganza. Weeknights, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern. And then on Friday, Amy Lawrence will be in from the Amy Lawrence Show, After Hours, Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio from 2 to 6 a.m. Eastern. Poll question today. Whose side are you on? You can always find it at Zach Gelb at CBS Sports Radio. Is it James Harden or Daryl Morey? Where James Harden over the weekend was in China and he said that Daryl Morey is a liar and that he will never play for Daryl Morey again. So that results right now are 76.6% Daryl Morey and then 23.4% rocking and rolling with James Harden. Let's go out to the guest line, though, right now. Welcome in a 7-time All-Star, played his entire big league career with the Mets, won a Gold Glove 2 times, and that, of course, is one of my favorite baseball players of all time, in David Wright. David, great to catch up with you again. How you been?
Great. Thanks for the intro. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. So I know that this was supposed to happen last week and rain washed it away, but now it's coming back. The second annual NYPD versus FDNY charity baseball game, the Battle of the Badges, and you're going to be the commissioner for the charity event. Seems like a nice honor.
Yes, second annual at Citi Field, but the series is tied 12-12 right now, so it's a big pivotal matchup this Thursday at Citi Field. Yeah, like you said, rain washed it away, and when the Mets approached me about being the commissioner, the host of this game, I jumped at it with my father being a police officer for over 30 years. I wanted me and my family to be there to shake hands with the first responders, the firefighters, the police officers, the true heroes of New York. I circled it on my calendar and wouldn't miss it for the world.
And obviously 9/11 didn't happen when you were on the Mets, on the big league club, but you know how much the Mets love to honor, and deservedly so, the NYPD and the FDNY. And you talked about your family background. Just how much pride did you take in that to always remember the legacies of the people that unfortunately that we lost on 9/11 when you were a player?
I think you said it beautifully. I really enjoyed it. It was a somber visit, but each year we tried to go to a different firehouse that lost brothers and sisters during 9/11. And I always look forward to the visit because I really enjoyed being around the firefighters, the first responders, but also just an incredibly somber, sad moment and looking at the wall of recognition or the wall of remembrance and seeing faces that bravely ran towards the trouble on 9/11. When the majority of us would be running away. It takes a different, brave, selfless person to run towards the trouble, and that's why I think all of us should, when we see a police officer on the street, see a firefighter on the street, shake their hand, say thank you, because these are the true heroes of the community and ones that keep us safe on a daily basis and genuinely risk their lives on a daily basis.
Well said. David Wright is here with us. The last time you were in a Mets uniform playing on the big league level was 2018. How much do you still miss the game, David?
Oh, I miss it terribly. I had my family up in New York for the game, the charity game that got rained out, the Battle of the Badges game, and when we snuck a Mets game in that Wednesday night against the Cubs, and just being back at the ballpark and the smells and the sounds, and you're getting old when you walk into the ballpark and you start reminiscing about the good old days, and that's what I caught myself doing. So it got the juices flowing. Talking to some of the guys, seeing the action. I kind of got caught in the game of when I was playing, trying to see if the pitchers were falling in any sequences or patterns, and I missed that competitive part about the game for sure.
How do you think you would have dealt with the pitch clock? Because I always remember David Wright stepping out of the box and fixing the batting gloves, obviously. I think that would have been a tough adjustment for you, David.
So you thought I was like a human rain delay, huh?
Well, I enjoyed watching you play.
So you don't think my game would have translated into playing a little quicker? I get it. No, it would have been. No, it really would have been. It really would have been an adjustment period because I think from a fan's perspective, the game just flows better. There's a lot more action, but as a player, I'm assuming or betting that it takes a little getting used to because, like you were right. I had a little, in between pitch routine that I did, and I think I would have been, it would have taken some getting used to, and I certainly would have had some strikes called on me in spring training, getting used to that.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of it is mental now because baseball players are so superstitious. A lot of those things that you guys would do are just superstitions. And it's like, how do you avoid that? And then mentally, just how does it play with your mind?
1,000%. You are correct, because it's not necessarily that we need the time in between the pitches, but when you come up with a routine and, you're taught your whole life in baseball that you have to have a routine, to be successful, you have to have a routine, you have to, take so many breaths and you have to, do something that kind of gets you in the moment. And then all of a sudden, the next year, it's like, okay, you got to get in the box, out of the box, in the box, out of the box. It definitely takes some getting used to it. And us baseball players are creatures of habit. So I'm sure it took a little getting used to in spring training. And I think everybody kind of learned together, both fans and players, when, guys were getting punched out in the bottom of the ninth with the bases loaded, and a pitch hadn't even been thrown. So, certainly an adjustment period, but I think the guys are doing a phenomenal job with it.
David Wright here with us. Since I was talking about the mental side of it, mental health, there's a heightened awareness for it now. You had to go through some serious injuries that you still deal with today. What was the mental side of that like for you, knowing that your career was going to get cut short a little bit?
For me, it took a while for my mind to catch up with my body. My mind always said, you got this, you can do this. It's just, you got to work harder, you got to want it more. And my body was just saying, whoa, this isn't going to happen. Slow down a little bit. You're pushing me too hard. So it took a little while for those things to kind of sync up and finally realize that, hey, I'm getting towards the end. And, I've said it a million times and I'll say it again. I can't thank the Mets organization enough for giving me that farewell game, that send off in front of my kids and my family and my friends. And, to be able to say thank you to the organization, to be able to say thank you to the fan base, the city, for always having my back. It really meant the world to me. And those are the types of memories that hit me when I get back to the ballpark at Citi Field. It's just a kind of for me, it's just get flooded with different emotions, all great, when I see that ballpark.
Do your girls start to understand how big of a deal Dad was now?
My oldest one, who's 7, brags all the time that she got to throw the first pitch out when she was 2 years old at the ballpark. So she was telling all of her friends, and I think every once in a while they'll play it when there's a rain delay.
Yeah. Been a lot of those this year, I'll tell you that.
Yes, so she thinks now that she's some big celebrity and, kind of walks around with her chest puffed out because she got a chance to throw the first pitch out at Citi Field. So, pretty cool to kind of see. We walked in and my kids wanted to see the team pictures. We have all the team pictures kind of leading down the hallway to the clubhouse. Wanted to see all the team pictures that I was in, so pointing out Dad and all the team pictures. So it was one of those proud dad moments.
I know that we've talked about this before, and I've always told you I believe that one day you will be a big league manager, David Wright, and you said, nah, you want to be home with the family. Do you start to maybe get that itch at all to manage?
I mean, you always, once you don't wear the uniform anymore, you always have that itch to get back out on the field. For now, and I guess I'll never say never, but I don't have much of a desire to, do it, on that level. My desire right now is to do it on the 5-year-old all-girls pony league team that I'm coaching starting in 2 weeks. So that's kind of, for me, being around my kids, getting a chance to be there to coach their soccer teams, their baseball teams, go take them to school on their first day of school, be a part of that part of life is much more important to me right now than the baseball side or kind of what I did, throughout my career. So I guess never say never, but I would give it a very, very slim chance moving forward just because I am really enjoying this part of life of being around my kids and watching them grow up every day.
Totally respect that answer. David Wright here with us, and we know how great of a leader you were when you were a player. Let me just say, if you were still in that Mets clubhouse, the season not going the way that they expected it to, a lot of people were traded right before the deadline, some tough moments that they're going through now. If you were still in that clubhouse, just what would the message be to the guys for like the final month and a half of the season?
Well, I don't think there's any hiding the disappointment that I'm sure those guys and me as a fan, are feeling. It's when you put that uniform on every day and you have those types of expectations and you have that type of payroll, when you're playing for that city, those expectations are high. And when you don't reach them, I think every guy in that clubhouse would tell you how disappointing of a year it's been. With that being said, it excites me to give these younger guys a chance to see what we have moving forward. It's a thrill for me to hopefully have a core of homegrown guys that either we get through these trades or that we develop within the organization, that when you're looking at next year or the year after that, they all come together and kind of form that core that you can have that winning mentality and sustain, that kind of winning mentality over a number of years. And I will tell you, there's a difference when you're a homegrown guy or they trade a Cy Young Award winner for you or a Hall of Famer for you. When you get to the big leagues with the Mets, you're going to have a terrific sense of pride putting that uniform on a daily basis and want to go out there and win to prove that, hey, I was worth Max Scherzer. I was worth Justin Verlander. So it excites me because it gives these young guys an opportunity to show what they got and almost an extended tryout to, see what areas are question marks going into the offseason and that need to be filled externally. And, some of these young guys are going to win a job for next year and say, hey, I'm going to be part of the solution moving forward. So, as a guy that was developed and drafted and, played his entire career with the Mets, it excites me to see hopefully that we get that sustained success in the future through our minor leagues and through some of these trades we just made.
So then a guy like that's stuck in the middle but is a big part of this team, Pete Alonso, who is now a veteran, isn't a free agent until 2025. A few of my friends down the hall at WFAN are saying maybe since the team is getting a little bit younger, they should trade Pete. What do you say to people that are skeptical about the Mets giving Pete a long-term deal eventually?
Well, I mean, I think that, he's shown that he can be one of the premier power hitters in baseball. With that being said, sometimes these decisions are very difficult. That's why these front office guys get paid, and women get paid a lot of money to make these difficult decisions. I think that a lot of it has to do with, the asks or, what both sides are offering, trying to meet in the middle somewhere. I think, everybody would like to see, one of the best power hitters in the game, remain a Met. But, sometimes difficult decisions have to be made. And that's why these guys get paid the big bucks. And, I'm on the edge of my seat seeing what's going to happen as well. So, I will say this, and I'm speaking, from my experience, is that I didn't want to go anywhere. I told the Mets both times we negotiated the two deals that I signed that, hey, I want to be here. Let's do something that's fair for you guys. Let's do something that's fair for me, and let's move on, because I don't want to be talking about my contract. I don't want to be, going out there and it being a distraction. Just know that I want to be here. And that was my mindset. And hopefully Pete's the same way. But time will tell, and we shall see.
Wrapping up with David Wright, everyone's going to be talking about Shohei Ohtani this offseason. Heck, that's all we do during the regular season with how unbelievable he is, not only on the mound, but then even better at the plate. If, let's say, Ohtani gave David Wright a call, or Uncle Stevie said, hey, can you give Ohtani a call and try to convince him to come to the Mets, what would you say to Ohtani about your experience playing in New York and why he should consider it?
That there's nothing else like it. It is the biggest sports stage that I've ever played on. That, if you can do it in New York, you will be celebrated like none other. And I think there's a reason why, whether it's basketball or football or baseball, when these opposing players come to New York, they want to put on a show because the whole world's watching. You got so many eyeballs on you. So if you want to experience what, when we went to the World Series in 2015 and, had a couple late playoff runs, we were like the Beatles walking around New York. So, if you want to experience that and, really do it on the stage, New York is the place for you. So that would be my pitch. And, to be able to come to New York and be successful, no place like it.
Hey, before we let you run, David Wright, and I always enjoy getting an opportunity to catch up with you, how do you want people to remember your career?
You know what? That's a good question. I would say just playing the game the right way, playing the game hard. I tried to have that blue-collar mentality every time I took the field. I knew in my heart that I wasn't the most talented player on the baseball field. I wasn't the biggest. I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. But I can promise you one thing, that I wanted it the most. And when I took that field, I knew that I was more prepared than anybody else on that field. And that's why I thought on a nightly basis that I could go be the best player that night because I was the most prepared. So not sure if that's how I'll be remembered or not, but that was my mindset when I worked in the off season, throughout the season. I wanted that blue-collar mentality that, hey, I am the most prepared and I am the hardest working guy on this field tonight.
And before we let you run, David Wright, one more time, just tell me about the big charity baseball game that you have coming up between the NYPD and the FDNY, the Battle of the Badges.
Yeah, I appreciate that plug a lot because obviously it's something that's near and dear to me. But Thursday, this coming up Thursday, 7 p.m., a big part of the proceeds are going to a number of different tremendous charities, throughout New York. So, come wear your NYPD hat, come wear your FDNY hat, root on the police officers, root on the firefighters, the real heroes, not only in New York, but every community keeps us safe on a daily basis. Come support the brave men and women that put the uniform on. Should be a good time. The series is tied 12-12, big pivotal game. And from what I understand, it's some really good baseball. It's a lot of college players, some guys that play minor leagues. So this isn't, some beer league slow pitch softball game. This is going to be pretty intense, so I'm excited to see it myself.
Well, if it's anything like the hockey game that they put on each and every year, man.
I hope that doesn't happen. I hope because I'm the commissioner of this thing, so I don't need any of that now. Let's keep it PG.
No Jose Ramirez, Tim Anderson incidents is what you're saying.
No, let's not do that. Because these guys would be able to kick my butt too. I don't want to have to break up any fights.
David Wright, good health to you and your family. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
There you go. David Wright joining us on CBS Sports Radio. David Wright is just like the consummate professional and one of the nicest people I've ever met. I'll tell a quick story here because I know we got to take a break. I was in 6th or 7th grade, and one of my best friends growing up, unfortunately, had cancer, and he was in and out of chemo treatments. And there was a big Met charity event where all the players were there. I forget the actual location. I want to say it was Radio City Music Hall. But we were at this event, and my friend only wanted to meet David Wright. But he had a treatment earlier this morning, and the event was in the afternoon, and he was late to getting to the event. So when he got there, Tom Glavine, Steve Traxel, and Chris Woodward were talking to my buddy Danny. And he said, I want to meet is David Wright. So I forget who got on the phone. But it was either Traxel, Glavine, or Woodward, and they called David. And David was on his way to a Knicks game with Cliff Floyd. They turned around, blew off the game, came back to the event, and spent like 2 to 3 hours with us. And it was just such a nice thing that David Wright, Cliff Floyd, Steve Traxel, Tom Glavine, and Chris Woodward did. And back in 2019, all these years later, I'm at the PGA Championship, and David Wright was a commissioner, or he was just, one of the faces they were putting at the PGA Championship at Bethpage Black on Long Island. And I've run into David Wright. And I said, David, I hate to do this, but I have to show you this photo. And I showed him the photo of my buddy, me, all the players together, and he remembered the entire thing. And we kind of reconnected. And anytime I reach out to him, he's benevolent enough to give us a few minutes here on CBS Sports Radio. So just truly, everything you hear and see about David Wright is truly what you get. Like a lot of times there's some athletes that could be phony or could be disingenuous. David Wright, one of the more genuine people on this planet. All right, we'll come on back with the Casamigos shot of the day. We know James Harden wants out of Philadelphia, but could there be another Sixer player who is on his way to maybe inching closer and closer to requesting a trade? Let's take a break. We'll come on back. We'll discuss that. Here is Eric Herskowitz with the latest CBS Sports Radio update.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach. Well, it seems free agent running back Ezekiel Elliott is headed to New England. He tweeted, I should say X'd today, that he has come to terms with the Patriots on a one-year deal, reportedly worth $3 million base salary, $1 million signing bonus, plus incentives. Meanwhile, the Cowboys reportedly worked out a new deal with All-Pro guard Zach Martin, so that ends his holdout. Under the terms of that deal, Martin will reportedly get more than $18 million for the next couple of seasons. The Ravens activated leading rusher J.K. Dobbins off the PUP list. Dobbins didn't participate in any of the offseason spring workouts, including mandatory minicamp, and missed the first 14 practices of training camp. Angry about his rookie contract that he's due $1.4 million this season. Good news on Saints rookie running back Kendre Miller. He's not expected to miss extensive time and will likely be ready for the start of the regular season after leaving Sunday's preseason game with a knee injury. From baseball, the Rays released a statement saying the team and Wander Franco have mutually agreed that he will go on the restricted list and take leave for the upcoming road trip, which starts tonight in San Francisco. I'm Erica Herskowitz.
The wait is almost over. College football and the NFL are just around the corner. For the best talk, insight, and entertainment from every gridiron across the nation, just ask your smart speaker to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Getting us all fired up on a Monday. Oh, levels by Avicii. I know you're trying to get me fired up for actually eating dinner at a normal hour. I can't wait to walk home at 6 p.m. Eastern, get back to my apartment about 6:25, 6:30, and I think I'm going to go to Little Westville, which is about 2 blocks from my apartment as well. And I'll eat a healthy salad because this is going to be a gluttonous week for yours truly. Wednesday, I'm going to Springsteen in Philadelphia, so you know I'm going to be stuffing my fat face with a cheesesteak. And then Friday, I'm off to the Jersey Shore for the final time this summer. And anytime I go to the Jersey Shore, I have 2 destinations I have to go to, or 3 actually. White House Subs, get a cheesesteak. Have to go to Chef Vola's and get some of the best veal parm that I've ever had. And then Stephen Cookies, too, and get the seafood pan roast. So it's going to be a lot of eating for your boy. So I have to somewhat watch the calories that I'm going to be intaking the rest of the week. But anyway, talking about adding some more calories, I will definitely be having some Casamigos on Wednesday night at the Bruce Springsteen show. Love my guy Leon Seidler. So let's get to the shot of the day. And, of course, we had on Ricky Williams earlier, and we asked him about the running back market.
He shoots!
As the game has evolved, the market on running backs has gone down. And it puts the onus on the running backs to get together and do something about it. I think it's good for running backs because we take so much of a pounding. We don't have long careers, which means that we need to try to get our money more on the front end and start thinking about what we want to do in the back end, because quality of life. And if you try to play running back for 10 years, it's going to be tough to maintain quality of life post-football.
So what would you do if you were like a Josh Jacobs right now?
I'd take the money and play one season. Because my point is, for a running back to look for longevity, I'm not sure. And I think the teams feel the same way.
And the shot of the day is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos is brought to you by those who drink it. So you usually hear a lot of running backs say, oh, I'm in favor of the running backs. Like if the running back wants to hold out, I'll support him just because of the fraternity of running backs. I like the answer that Ricky Williams gave. Because here's the thing with Josh Jacobs. And even Jonathan Taylor, I know it's more lucrative for Josh Jacobs this year. If you miss and you are not playing the games, you don't get that money back. And the running back position is such a short shelf life that in a few years from now, you may say, I could have used that $10 million when I could have got the entirety of it. And whatever it is for Jonathan Taylor this upcoming year. And I think what Jonathan Taylor's starting to realize, because he's under contract right now. Jacobs just has the franchise tag offer and he hasn't signed it yet, so there's a difference. But for Jonathan Taylor, I do think he could milk the injury with the ankle, the back, whatever they're calling it, and play it to his favor. But you do need to get on the field because last year you were injured. So even if you take a step closer to free agency or getting slapped with the franchise tag, whatever it is, if you eventually want to cash on in, if you're not on the field enough, they're going to use this against you, missing a few games this season. For Josh Jacobs, at this point, he did not wave the white flag as quickly as Saquon Barkley did. And Saquon got, an extra $900,000 in incentives? There's really no leverage. So for him, I do the same thing. Maybe you get an extra $1 million, $2 million in incentives for this season. You sign the tag, and then you play the entire season if you're healthy. Samter, that to me, if you're a running back sitting out the year just to prove a point, look at Le'Veon Bell, for example. Yeah, he eventually got a big contract, but he also never got back the money that he would have got back if he played on the franchise tag. And even he says he regrets now leaving Pittsburgh looking back. I know you could say hindsight is always 20/20, but it's not as if Le'Veon Bell is ancient history. That's something that I do think players should realize. There's really no leverage here. There's nothing you could do. You just signed the new CBA. It's a stinky situation, and it's a bad situation for you, but get your money while you can, even if it's not the deal that you desire to get, and take advantage of what's being in your contract right now because you never find a way to get that money back.
It's true. Part of the problem, though, is they're locked into these deals when they get drafted as rookies. So unless something happens with the CBA and how the draft works, and that's the problem, right? So, I love Ricky's point. get the money up front, get the money early on. But if you're locked into a 4 or sometimes 5-year deal with that 5th-year option, if you're a first-round pick as a running back, you're screwed because you're 21.
7 years, really, because you could get franchise tagged twice, too.
So basically, you're 21 when you come out, right? You have to be at least 2 years removed from high school, so you have to be a junior most likely. So you're 21 years old when you come out, maybe 20 if you're lucky. You got pounding already on your body. You're going to be 26 until you can renegotiate a real contract. And no team, unless you're like the elite of the elite of the elite, teams are not giving guys this money. They have to do something up front in the draft process to help save the running back world. Otherwise, like it's these guys are going to get screwed, and there's nothing they can do about it.
And why nothing will ever happen is because then other positions, even though the money's going to all these other positions, they'll say, well, if the running backs can't get franchise tag, let's say if that's the move that they're going to make, then I don't want to get franchise tag. So we always see in these labor disputes, owners are together. There's only 32 of them. The players, it's impossible to get enough of the players on one side because everyone ultimately looks out for what's in the best interest of themselves. Real quickly, I just want to end the show on this. With the whole James Harden stuff, with James Harden being a fraud and stabbing Daryl Morey in the back, and I don't even like Daryl Morey. I think he's the most overrated executive in sports. When does Joel Embiid request a trade? That's my question. Because Joel Embiid is under contract 23, 2024, 2024, 2025, 2025, 2026. And then as a player option right before the start of the 2026-2027 season. We've seen Joel Embiid, and I know he did not play well in the postseason this year, and he's been given a pass the most part for some poor playoff performances because we've seen the incompetence of Ben Simmons. We've seen, I know Harden played 2 good games this year, but Harden not be the right fit. Jimmy Butler was a good fit, then he leaves, and then Jimmy Butler goes on to be a top 10 player in the league. You had the Markelle Fultz situation as well. When does Joel Embiid just get fed up with the Sixers? And I know he alluded to it and talked about it over the summer, and then he just said he was trolling. But if I had to take a guess and a bet right now, I think Joel Embiid, I'm not saying he's going to get traded this offseason, but I think Joel Embiid this upcoming offseason is going to make his first formal trade request from the Philadelphia 76ers. Because you only have so many years left in a championship prime window. And if you really want to go win a championship, you're better off going somewhere else because the Sixers are just a good team. They're not close to winning a championship because they've failed to find that next complementary piece the last few years for Joel Embiid to go really take advantage of this window that they had. All righty, fun time today on Maggie and Perloff. I'll be back tomorrow at 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, also in on Thursday in this time slot. Big thanks to Michael Samter and also Stuart Kovacs, all the Weedos and the Purple Drinkers and the chat, everyone that tunes in to CBS Sports Radio and also this show. And also like to thank Ricky Williams for stopping by and also David Wright. All righty, enjoy the rest of your evening. The Zach Gelb Show's coming up next. Shameless plug. Without Zach Gelb, Hot Take Hickey filling in. I'm sure there'll be some crazy takes from Hickey. All righty, have a great rest of your evening, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.